What's going on, my fellow A-Plusers? Welcome back once again to our brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news right here on our YouTube page, going live on YouTube as well as our Facebook page, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much for certainly joining us today on this Sunday afternoon as we wrap up this week and really kind of plunge into the upcoming week of some fantastic news for you guys to keep you guys all up to date as to what's going on in the world of nerd pop culture and all the greatness that's certainly out there. We don't have quite the full cast today, but we at least do have half the cast, and we have Stuart Branscombe certainly joining us today. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man.
Hey, good to be back once again.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. How's your weekend been so far?
Oh, weekend's been pretty good. I'm finally kind of back to working almost full-time at the theater. Starting hopefully next week, it will be full-time. I'll be back to managing, so that'll be fun. So yeah, it's been weird just because it's so slow there. And I figured from our opening weekend where we were like just absolutely busy, I kind of thought it was going to be like that for a while. But I guess because I think part of it is that we didn't get Raya the Last Dragon, so that might have been part of what contributed to it.
Why didn't you guys? Did they not release it in theaters or what?
Cinemark was being extremely stupid when it came to negotiating the distribution.
Gotcha.
Well, I guess part of it was Disney as well. Like Disney was wanting kind of like the same amount that you would normally buy for a movie in distribution, and whereas like HBO and Warner Brothers, they're a lot more flexible. They're not charging as much for rights when it comes to the movies, and that's kind of like how they make up for it being on their website. So yeah, because Disney's not offering that same courtesy, despite the fact that the movie's on Disney Plus, Cinemark wasn't interested in taking it. That's the basic rundown of why Cinemark doesn't have it.
Okay, yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch it. I know it is on Disney Plus. I believe you have to pay a premium access to watch it. I feel like people that have seen it have enjoyed it, but I'm not quite sure. I have to go ahead and certainly check it out myself. The animation looks pretty good, so maybe I'll have to try and check it out sometime.
I personally thought the show was really good.
Yeah,
the movie was really good.
You enjoyed it? Okay, good. Great suggestion then. Maybe guys check out Raya then whenever you get the opportunity to, if you certainly can. Let's see here, guys. We wind up having ourselves about maybe 6 different topics for us to certainly talk about today. We do have some quick honorable mentions that we want to go ahead and kick off the top. But before we do, just some quick honorable mentions, just for some shout outs for people that wind up actually joining us live today. We got Beast Boy 2.0 in the house. Thank you very much certainly for coming through, saying Marvel, Spider-Gwen, and Quake as Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, we're definitely going to go ahead and talk about the Powerpuff Girl news for you guys here. Adrian, what's up, buddy? Good to certainly see you this morning, or this afternoon, I should certainly say. And also a reminder, we did have a jump forward ahead, so a lot of us are lacking maybe an extra hour of sleep today. So we'll try and bring the energy for you guys today if we can, since we had to leap forward an hour. So make sure all your clocks should certainly be set ahead. Dino Fury in the house. I'm handsome dude is certainly in here also, and of course we got AJ making his presence felt as well. And of course, as we wind up having stragglers that wind up joining us, ladies and gents, just make everybody certainly feel welcome and at home. And listen, guys, towards the end of the episode, we will be tackling your guys' live viewer questions. So if you do have a live viewer question, if you've yet to send it in, please go ahead and do so at aplusopinions@gmail.com. Again, aplusopinions@gmail.com. You can send them out throughout the entirety of the week if you like. If you happen to watch an episode or a movie or read an article for yourself that you want to further discuss, go ahead and send it our way, and we'll tackle your questions towards the end of our show, just in case if we can't happen to get to all of your comments and such as that. But other than that, let's get into some quick honorable mentions here. This is a big week, Stuart. We got a big week coming up here, man. This week, especially when it comes to March, we've got 2 big events, whether you're a Marvel fan or a DC fan, to look forward to. And the first one we got to talk about here, man, is Zack Snyder's Justice League's 4-hour movie drops this week. March 18th, I believe, is the day, if I'm looking at my calendar correctly. Yes, the 18th, it certainly is. 4 hours, and we wind up getting ourselves some brand new photos here of Darkseid along with Superman also. Getting a better glimpses here, if you will. Let's see here, and then we also had Superman in his black Superman costume highlighted. Also looks like his maybe a replica of the first flight that we wind up seeing from a Man of Steel here. But Stuart, it's right around the corner, man. 4 hours of Zack Snyder's Justice League. What are you thinking from the photos that we've seen, and what's your hype level so far going into this week?
What gets me excited about this photo, like seeing Darkseid on his throne and then seeing Superman, it looking like he's bowing to him, but it might actually be a completely different area. It reminds me of my favorite arc from Superman, the animated series, where Darkseid had Superman under his control for the last 3 episodes of the series. So it would be cool if that's something that, because I think that's what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure the full cut, we're going to see Superman evil for a little bit. So that's going to be kind of cool, seeing Superman as an antagonist to the Justice League. And then, obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how he recovers from that, because, having been brainwashed from someone like Darkseid isn't something you exactly get over in one night. So, I hope this is something that the movie definitely explores.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, goodness, we've got 4 hours worth of storytelling to check out. I mean, I've been hearing some pretty good things, but then again, I feel like everybody's going to throw out some pretty good things. We'll definitely have to see how the movie turns out. But with 4 hours of film, I'm just thinking to myself, like, what type of storylines are we going to be getting? Like, what direction is Zack Snyder taking us in, right? Like, I know that there are going to be elements of the Justice League film that we have already seen, but when you're adding like an additional 2 hours to this movie, I'm really fascinated to see what all the storyline beats are going to be, and if the overarching feel is just going to be significantly different. So I have no idea what to expect. I'm going into this blind, and honestly, that excites me more than anything.
What it kind of sounds like is that he wants all the characters that haven't been in a movie yet. So in other words, Aquaman, the Flash, Cyborg, to kind of have their own moment within the movie to like shine as if it's like a solo movie for all of them. So it sounds like those 3 will specifically like have a really big subplot going on. And that's just from what I can gather from all the promo images and everything that Zack Snyder has been saying about the film on Twitter. So that's something that I do kind of look forward to. It's like, yes, we know these guys haven't had their own movie before, so we're just going to kind of give them a mini arc within this 4-hour picture.
Yeah, there's plenty of time for everybody to shine. It feels like, for sure. There shouldn't be any excuses there.
I got to ask real quick. Did you hear about what happened? I believe it was earlier this week when it came to the release of Tom and Jerry on HBO Max.
Yeah, I heard that they accidentally leaked the movie. I don't know how long it was up there, but I think in regards to putting up Tom and Jerry, they accidentally put up Zack Snyder's Justice League because they look so alike. You know what I mean? They're almost practically the same movie. So
yeah, from what I hear was 2 hours of the it was on there for 2 hours before they realized what was going on and they could fix their mistake.
That's crazy. I heard some people saying they're trying to sabotage the movie, but I kind of look at that as like free publicity, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, put it out there. Because I haven't heard anybody coming out saying it was crappy after those 2 hours that they wind up watching or having it up there for. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll definitely see what happens. But I thought that was pretty funny.
What got me excited is I actually looked up reviews immediately after I heard about this happening, and I could only find one YouTube channel that had about it didn't even have that many subscribers. It had like 15 subscribers. But what got me excited is that they mentioned that they hated Dawn of Justice, but they actually really liked what they saw from Justice League so far. So, maybe I'll like this movie now. So now I'm actually a lot more excited than I was previously.
Well, still going with low expectations. Still going with low expectations, Stuart,
like don't get me wrong. If it ends up being really bad, I'm not going to be like disappointed. But you know what? I'm definitely not going in this expecting it to be bad, though. You know what I mean? I'm going in with a very open expectation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying there. And so then on the 18th, we've got Zack Snyder, and then the very next day, we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier that winds up dropping, and I think it's a 6-part series for the Disney Plus series also. So I'm telling you guys, this week is going to be massive. But sticking with DC here just a little bit, one more honorable mention I want to throw out to you guys here is that they wind up having AT&T, I believe, had an investors call meeting this week, and unleashed a brand new sort of DCEU and television slate in general to kind of give us an idea of some of the titles that there's currently working on or currently have on the air as of right now. So let's go ahead and pull this up for you guys, because there's a ton of titles on here that WB and AT&T are putting together, but there are two specific titles that are really jumping out at us that really grabbed a ton of people's attentions. If you look in the very top right hand corner, we've got Batgirl, that clearly seems to still be on the radar of DCEU at this particular moment. I mean, we just got announced the Blue Beetle right next to it. You see Suicide Squad that's going to be released for us here within the next couple of, does it come out this month? I believe it comes out this year, actually, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, so Batgirl is still up there after, the back and forth, the roller coaster ride that film has had. It used to have Josh Whedon attached to it. He wind up falling off, and now I do believe that they have either the Birds of Prey writer attached to Batgirl or somebody, but they definitely are continuing along with their plans for Batgirl. And then right in the middle, right next to Supergirl, if you can see, I'm upset we don't have Indy on here this week. Right? I'm upset we don't have Indy on here this week because the man that wanted Zatanna is getting Zatanna. They clearly listened to you, Indy. They're like, you know what? That guy at APlus Hero Report, let's throw him a bone and do something here. And we finally have Zatanna, and Indy's not even here to talk about it, man. So we got to talk it up. This is a character that Indy definitely has been wanting to see for quite some time. I think a lot of us certainly have been wanting to see. I don't know if this is DC's sort of, hey, you guys got the Scarlet Witch. You've been giving her some shine. We've got somebody that does a little bit magic ourselves in Zatanna here. I'm really eager. I think she's a great character. Whether or not she gets explored in, say, like a Justice League Dark series or whatever the case may be, but this looks like they're definitely having plans on giving her something of her own here. You get the opportunity to see this, Stuart. Do you think this is I don't know if this is a series or a movie. Do you have any expectations of what you personally would like to see, though?
Personally, I'd like to see it as a movie, but if I had to guess, I would assume this is going to be a series coming out to HBO Max.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure myself. I mean, I would assume probably HBO Max also. I mean, there's a ton of movies listed on here as well, so I don't really know if this was supposedly just be a slate for what's supposed to be upcoming in HBO Max or not. But it looks pretty good, and so I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. Yeah, guys, Batgirl and Zatanna certainly getting some shine. I'm really eager to see what they tap into. I've been saying this for a while though. Like when it comes to Batgirl, the Batman franchise literally can be its own cinematic universe if they wanted to. Like if they just wanted to build something of their own, they could easily do that.
They really could. With Zatanna, though, what I'm really hoping they're doing is building up to Justice League Dark, and it would make sense because of what they've recently announced that they're looking for a new actor for Constantine. So I'm wondering if this is going to be where he makes his first appearance.
Oh, possibly. It could certainly be. We'll definitely keep an eye out on that. And then one last quick honorable mention for Batwoman. Ruby Rose came out recently this past week. I mean, she's been out for a while, but she came out in regards to talking about the show and saying that she actually would not mind the idea of coming back to reprise her role as Kate Kane. She doesn't seem as though there's a need for it as of right now, but she at least said that she would be open to the idea of returning. Do you see a place of that actually happening, Stuart?
Yeah. For me, this interview kind of just with her just saying like she would if they asked, makes it really heavily implied that they haven't asked, which means the whole arc that they're kind of building up to right now of, oh, Kate's alive. We might be able to find where Kate is. It's just really them. To me, it just feels like they're really padding out the season because they just don't know what to write about, which is just kind of a disappointment. So this interview kind of confirms that theory that I had, where they really don't know what to write about, I guess.
I mean, or maybe she's hiding it, right?
Oh,
Maybe she's just
maybe, yeah.
maybe she's keeping it a little bit to herself and a little bit secretive. I mean, I don't know if anybody's approached her or not. I mean, I would think that if you've got a running storyline that Kate is in fact alive, and you've got the actress that was playing Kate saying she would return, I mean, I feel like there's a no-brainer there. Like, can you somebody pick up the phone and call her for like just a one-off or a cameo or something like that to at least wrap up that story? Maybe by the time we get to this particular season, I mean, who certainly knows? The fact that she's at least open to it at least suggests the idea that maybe we could have one. So we'll see whether or not they've contacted her, or if this is Ruby Rose just playing it up and keeping her secrets. Keep your secrets, Ruby Rose. That's fine. We don't need no details. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If it turns out that that's what they're doing, then I will be incredibly impressed. Actually, if that ends up being what happens.
Nice. Well, we'll definitely go ahead and see. But all right, guys, it is time to go ahead and get into our main topics for the day. You ready to go ahead and tackle these with me, Stuart?
Totally.
Awesome, man. Let's go ahead and get this, man. So we're going to go ahead and start off with really the main or the big story of the week here that you guys saw at the very top of our thumbnail on the very cover here. We've been talking about it over the past several months. I've been having people ask me, Anna, why are you highlighting Powerpuff Girls on your show? There's a reason why we certainly are, because the Powerpuff Girls are in fact getting itself a live action television series on the CW. We've been hearing plenty of it. The idea of the Powerpuff Girls sort of being in their 20-somethings at this particular point in time, maybe regretting or looking back on their time as superheroes and seeing a lot of the time that they've kind of wasted. I don't want to say necessarily wasted away, but really missed the opportunity to kind of grow on their own a little bit here. And I've been really fascinated by just the story arc alone of what we could be tackling when it comes to Powerpuff Girls. CW has picked up an actual pilot for this particular show. I don't believe a full order has been picked up as of yet, but we're still certainly waiting. But as we're going into pilot season, this is in fact the opportunity for Powerpuff Girls to shine, to see if they actually will get themselves a live action series. But today, or I should say this week, ladies and gentlemen, we got more involvement from Powerpuff Girls here in regards to the casting. We have official casting announcements for who our girls are certainly going to be. So let's go ahead and tackle these real quick, Stuart. This actually comes to us from Variety, letting us know that, yes, the Powerpuff Girls have in fact been cast. We've got Chloe Bennet, Dove Cameron, and Yana Perrault. A lot of these names you guys will probably recognize. Chloe and Dove have actually, Dove have both been on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before in the past. And I believe Dove also maybe comes from the line of Disney upstarts, if you certainly will. So let's go ahead and get into this Variety article here. It says the live action Powerpuff Girl pilot at the CW has found its 3 leads: Chloe Bennet, Dove Cameron, and Yana Perrault. It says the Powerpuff Girls live action was first announced as being in development back in August. It says based on the Cartoon Network series, the new series sees the pint-sized superheroes as delusioned 20-somethings who resent having lost their childhood to crime fighting. Will they agree to reunite now that the world needs them more than ever? And so it says Bennett has been cast as Blossom, Cameron has been cast as Bubbles, and Perrault has been cast as Buttercup. It goes on to say here that Blossom, and we got some great character descriptions also, which I'm really glad that they wind up giving us. Blossom, played by Chloe Bennet, though she was a spunky, conscientious, Little Miss Perfect child who holds several advanced degrees, has repressed kitty superhero trauma, has left her feeling anxious and reclusive, and she aims to become a leader again, this time on her own terms. They also go ahead and talk a little bit about Bubbles here, played by Dove Cameron. Dove's sweet girl disposition won America's heart as a child. She still sparkles as an adult, but her charming exterior bellies an unexpected toughness and wit. She's initially more interested in recapturing her fame than saving the world, but she just might surprise us and herself. And then last but not least, we've got Buttercup, played by Yana Perrault. It says, Buttercup was a rebellious badass of the Powerpuff Girls in its heyday. More sensitive than her tough exterior suggests, Buttercup has spent her childhood trying to shed her Powerpuff Girl identity and live an anonymous life. So some great character arcs here, I feel like, for Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. Honestly, wasn't quite sure what I was gonna get as far as personality traits, but this kind of feels like very much right up the alley of people in their 20 somethings that kind of resent their childhood and maybe some of the trauma that comes with not only facing off against crime as a kid, but also having to be raised sort of in that spotlight, if you will, and maybe some of the ramification that it has. It almost feels like I think of like young upstart people in like music, you know what I'm saying, that kind of have all this shine kind of thrown on them, and their lives just kind of go out of whack, if you will. And it's not till they start hitting, start getting older and a little bit more mature, that they start seeing their lives and looking back on it, and things kind of start progressing, if you will. So I kind of dig just sort of the real life vibes that we get here from Powerpuff Girls. What happens when you get older and you start coming out of that fame that you've had all these years of being a superhero and stuff. I love it. I love that all these ladies are having a lot that they have to deal with and overcome, if you will. And this seems like a pretty interesting situation here for our Powerpuff Girls. But Stuart, you hear some of these character breakdowns and where we're going to find them. How do you like the casting, and what do you like the choices so far for these character details?
Yeah, no, I think they're spot on with the idea of where these characters would be as adults. So I think that's really cool. As for who they got so far, so Chloe Bennett obviously is totally a win there. Dove Cameron, I do recognize her because I think she was in like a couple episodes of Shameless. Yes, she was. And then she was also in the movie Descendants, which my little brother used to love. So
I used to love that movie.
So I have actually seen that movie. So yeah, I think those two will be really good in their roles. As for Yana, unfortunately, I think this is like her first role, so I don't really have an opinion for her. But I'm sure knowing who they put her to, co-star with, there had to have been a really good reason for that. So I am excited to see how she does with her debut in this TV series. But yeah, I think like in terms of character descriptions, yeah, exactly like where they are currently in the show. Definitely seems exactly like where they would have been if the cartoon had like a spinoff where they all grew up as adults. So I'm definitely excited. I think what I'm also really intrigued about, something I didn't think of until you kind of brought this up, the idea of it kind of all ending up being like kind of a big metaphor for like kind of real life child stars who end up kind of giving up their whole childhood for, all that fame that they end up getting, but they don't really realize what they're getting into because they're really young. I think that's going to be absolutely brilliant. And also, I can't wait to find out who they got cast as the mayor and Miss Bellum.
Yeah, you got to know that you got to think that eventually those casting announcements will be brought to our attention. So I'm really looking forward to see who they have cast as that also. But you bring up a good point in regards to some of the casting choices here. Let me see. They did actually talk a little bit about Yana towards the end, because while I'm not very familiar with her, it does say that she was most recently seen on Broadway in the Alanis Morissette musical Jagged Little Pill. She was also set to join the cast of Hamilton on Broadway before the pandemic actually shut down live theater. So it says she is known for performing and producing her own original music as well. So it would mark her on-screen debut. So it definitely feels as though not only is she just an artist when it comes to music, but on Broadway also. So Ray Fisher also came from Broadway, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So I feel like if you come from Broadway, you definitely have some chops, some acting chops. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what she brings to the Buttercup role, considering that Buttercup was always my personal favorite. But I will say this, I think the big win here, while I'm sure Dove Cameron will certainly do a fantastic job as Bubbles, the big win here for me is definitely Chloe Bennett. I mean, the idea of coming into the CW show with a recognizable name from just right off a huge Agents of Shield fame, if you will, in playing Daisy, aka Quake. I think this was a huge pickup for them, and pretty brilliant in regards to just name recognition alone. I don't know how many people were excited for the idea of a Powerpuff Girl movie until this actually dropped, and people saw, oh, Chloe Bennett's attached. Okay, maybe we'll start paying attention to this a little bit more. So I think this was a brilliant casting, and I'm really eager to see what the chemistry is going to be like for all these ladies. But I'm really excited for this.
I am as well. It is really funny because I feel like going back to the first announcement for the Powerpuff Girls live action series, I didn't think it was actually going to happen. I figured there's no way this is actually going to be picked up, but here we are. Not only is it being picked up, but you got someone like Chloe Bennett attached to it. So they must have like a really interesting premise going on for not only a big network, or not only for the CW to pick it up, but for a big actor like Chloe to be involved in it. There must be something about this script that really intrigues people. So I'm definitely excited to see what it is.
Yeah, and we'll definitely keep you guys posted. Again, I believe this is just for the pilot, though. I don't believe it's been picked up for a full order as of yet. But when you've got star power like that attached, and I think a lot of people kind of intrigued, we'll see how the pilot certainly performs, and maybe we'll get ourselves an entire series order here pretty soon. But listen, guys, at the end of the day, we definitely want to go ahead and know your thoughts, though. Powerpuff Girls live action coming our way here. We've got our cast. What do you think about the casting choices, and especially some of the character descriptions? I definitely want to go ahead and know your guys' thoughts. It's pretty interesting seeing somebody like Blossom or Bubbles having like maybe some anxiety and things like that. I kind of dig the idea of just trying to see what these characters are really going to go through. But we definitely want to know your thoughts, guys. So let us know in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to see if we have any comments here in regards to it. AJ says, I love that both Chloe and that Chloe and Dove were both enemies on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I remember watching Dove play twins on the Disney show Liv and Maddie. Oh, that's right. I don't personally recall, but I do recall reading that. I never personally watched it myself. Did you know that she was on that Disney show, Stuart?
No.
Yeah, me either. I don't really follow up with it, but thank you for the insight, AJ. We appreciate that, man. Adrian says, please don't make Mojo Jojo look like or some pimp looking dude. I think I would be interested to see how they're gonna portray some of these characters in live action form. Do you think they're just gonna make them a actual person?
I really hope it's a costume and not CG, only because even if this show has a good budget, I don't know if you'd be able to afford to have him in as like a series regular if he was fully CG. So personally, I'm hoping for prosthetics and like just, a really creative looking costume.
Yeah, me too. So we'll see. We'll definitely see how that certainly turns out. All right, guys. With that, we will go ahead and move on to our next topic. Now that one certainly has wrapped up. And this next topic, guys, is one that actually shouldn't be too much of a surprise to us. I feel like they've been teasing this for quite some time, but we actually have ourselves some confirmation here. The Creed series itself has actually been rather impressive. I don't really know if many people expected the Creed series to have so much success, especially after 6 Rocky movies. The idea of after Rocky Balboa continuing along with that Rocky franchise in a certain way to go ahead and branch out into Creed. I certainly was not sure what to expect, but when you have heavyweights like Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan attached, it certainly catapulted Creed to a fantastic stardom. And now we're actually about to approach the 3rd Creed movie and rounding out this trilogy for him. But one of the things that we've been hearing about is the idea as to who could potentially be the director for Creed 3 now that Ryan Coogler and the director for Creed 2 have certainly moved on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been teased with it for quite some time, but Stuart, it's actually a reality itself. We've got Creed star Michael B. Jordan, Adonis Creed himself, is going to be tackling Creed 3 as a director. This comes to us from Deadline. Michael B. Jordan ready to fight for new title as director of Creed 3. It says MGM dates film for a Thanksgiving 2022 release. So we still have quite a ways for it to certainly go, but it's definitely happening. It says Deadline has mentioned it was going to happen numerous times, but Michael B. Jordan has now committed to a step up to a new title, director. He'll helm the third installment of Creed. It says Jordan's big moment. This is his directorial debut. Was spoiled by his on-screen leading lady Tessa Thompson as a toss-away in an online interview, but most knew this was in the cards for several years since Irwin Winkler, producer of the original Rocky films and Creed spinoffs, revealed that Jordan was going to be the director of the third film. It does say that they do have a script and everything's ready to go. And it says Jordan has already shown that he has ring chops to play Apollo Creed's son in Adonis Johnson, and he has been learning from some fine filmmakers in Ryan Coogler and now Denzel Washington, who is directing Jordan in Journal for Jordan, a fact-based drama about First Sergeant Charles Monroe King. Yeah, it looks as though he's been almost prepped for this moment, if you will, get an opportunity to work alongside some really big names. And I will say one name that isn't up there that I think should be given a little bit of credit to also is Sylvester Stallone himself, the gentleman who has directed several Rocky movies also. He kind of knows this world very well. And I'm pretty sure the idea of him being attached with Michael B. Jordan on the past Creed films probably has gone a long way in regards to helping Michael B. Jordan get used to this particular role and just learn what it takes to certainly be a filmmaker in that right when it comes to putting movies together. So I think Michael B. Jordan has just really surrounded himself with brilliant people that only will make him better in his own career and push him forward. And when you've got that type of talent around you, especially when you're that talented already, I expect really big things from Michael B. Jordan. I mean, this guy is not only directing now, he's going to be producing his own movie in Static Shock as well. So we've got some big things here for Michael B. Jordan. And for me, I like the idea that he's going to be directing the third installment of this movie. It's not like we're giving him a huge sort of tentpole film in the sense that it's the first movie out the gate. It's not like a big blockbuster film like that of a Marvel or DC. It's the third installment of a trilogy. You know what I mean? We're kind of towards the end of this particular tale. I mean, who knows? Maybe we do get ourselves a Creed 4 and 5 somewhere down the line. I mean, look what happened with Rocky. But I think this is a really good fit, especially for a first-time director. There's not too much pressure on you, I feel like, to perform or knock it out of the park. But I think the guy's talented enough to certainly put together a solid film for sure. And who knows, it might turn out to be fantastic. But I think this is a great opportunity for Michael B. Jordan. I'm excited to see what he does with this film. But I think if anything, if you're going to have a directorial debut, this is probably as perfect of a choice as you can have. Let me throw this over to you though, Stuart. You hear this news. It is in fact confirmed Michael B. Jordan is going to be doing this movie. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I definitely agree. This is the perfect film to start out for your directorial debut, especially when it's a film that you've been in for the past two films or for the past two movies. And
good point.
Sorry, I worded that terribly. I meant to say when it's a franchise that you've been in now for the past two films. And so it's like he already has like the familiarity with the character. He has the familiarity with the cast and crew. So now all he has to do is, go from working alongside with the cast and crew to now being the person to direct the cast and crew. So, and I don't think it's that big of a step up. So I think it is the perfect way to start out. It's kind of like, working at a retail store with your coworkers, but then being promoted to manager at that same store. It's like not too much is that different. Just now you're, instead of working alongside with them, now you're still working alongside with them, but you're giving them orders while doing so. So I do think that he's going to, this will be a perfect test to see whether or not the directing, life is for him. And I am really excited to see how he does. And I really hope that if this movie ends up being really good, that we end up seeing more DC films in the future, probably directed by him as well. So not just produced.
Yeah, no, I would actually love to see that, honestly. I will just jump off of what you mentioned here just a second ago too. The idea that yes, this is a great spot for him to certainly be in. I will throw something out to you though, Stuart. Here, I am kind of curious if whether or not Rocky will actually be in this movie this time around. I believe he did survive by the end of Creed 2. I am wondering if Sylvester Stallone would be open to the idea of coming back and reprising his role for this movie, or if we jump into this next film and Rocky's already passed away or whatever the case may be. I'm not quite sure, but I do hope that Sylvester Stallone does pop up in this movie in some capacity. I think it would be really great to at least round off his storyline here. But going back to what you said, the idea of this being a great choice for him, and the idea of having to direct the rest of the cast and crew, for me, it'll be interesting to see how he handles directing himself. You know what I mean? To be able to kind of juggle the jobs of a director, not only having to make sure that your crew is where everybody needs to be, but your cast hitting their lines and their marks and stuff, and especially yourself also, right? I mean, just the idea of like being in his costume, going in front of the camera, making his lines, and then going back out behind the camera to see how it turned out, and then having like that kind of stuff just always fascinates me whenever they have actors that turn into directors or direct themselves, sort of thing. I would love to kind of just hear from them personally, just what the challenges are in that respect. But if there's anybody that's capable of pulling this off, man, it's definitely Michael B. Jordan for sure.
What's funny is that you'll have two type of directors who do that. One of them is Mel Brooks, and what he will often do is he often is super unconfident about his performances that he directs. So those will be the takes that end up going like that they end up having like 20 or 30 different takes with it, because he'll go on, do his lines, come back, look at it, and goes, nope, all awful. I need to do this again. So it would be funny to if we get some behind the scenes like kind of news about him directing, to see if he's that kind of director, the kind where like even if he has like a really good take, he just like doesn't like seeing himself the way it is, so he's just kind of like, no, we got to do this again. So it'll be kind of funny to hear. But yeah,
because for me it would be fascinating just to see like how his peers also like handle the idea that they're being directed by him now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes having to make decisions while like, getting the scene set up and while being in the spot for the scene. Yeah, I imagine that's like not easy. But as for the Sylvester Stallone thing that you brought up, I think what's really cool about the way they wrote his character with the first Creed movie is that they made it so if there was ever like a fatigue from Sylvester Stallone, like if he didn't feel like coming to Creed 3, they have such an easy way of being able to write him out, because when they do mention that he's really old and that he just like went through chemo, so it is kind of easy to write him out if they need to. Like personally, I'm hoping that if they do that, we get a scene with it. But I also feel like with this being the third film, like at this point, Creed doesn't necessarily need a mentor or anything like that. He's kind of, become a fully established character at this point. So it would be, I could see it going either way, honestly, at this point.
You do make a good point. I mean, he has kind of sort of become his own man at this point. Fully into the fight game as of right now, type of thing also. So you're right. I mean, I feel like look, nobody ever wants to see one of their favorite heroes in Rocky Balboa ever perish, you know what I mean, or pass away or whatever the case may be. But every storyline for a character's got to come to an end at some point in time, and just based off of the battle that he wind up having in Creed 2, it honestly wouldn't surprise me, Stuart, if you're absolutely right, if we start off this movie and he has passed. I mean, it would be understandable if they went that route, or if they give at least Rocky Balboa a nice farewell or a funeral or whatever the case may be, something along those lines. But for me, I definitely would love to see just that next step for Adonis, now that if Rocky does pass away, just that idea of having to be his own man and really have to deal with his own career and his own life kind of going forward a little bit.
I just thought of who the villain should totally be in this movie, actually.
Clubber Lang. No.
No. I can't remember his name, but the dude from Rocky 5, the dude that Rocky tried to mentor, was that his name? Tommy? Yeah, the dude that like Rocky tried to mentor, but then he just became like an asshole out of nowhere. I think that'd be like kind of the perfect rivalry for him. Like you get someone who's super jealous because he's like, no, he was originally my mentor.
Oh my God, Tommy Gunn. I haven't heard that name in forever. I try and forget that movie exists after a while. When I was sitting here,
bad movie.
when I was sitting here, just as we started this topic, and I was thinking to myself, how many Rocky movies were there? 5? Oh, and then just automatically the 5th one came back to me, and I'm like, oh no, there's 6. Rocky Balboa. I try and forget about the 5th one, honestly. But
you guys, and Sylvester Stallone.
Is it? I didn't know it was like that. All right, and then it looks like we got a couple question here. It says, I'm handsome dude says, I don't know if Michael B. Jordan is just trying to make more cash. I know some people I know don't consider Creed as an actual continuation of Rocky. I absolutely do. The fact that they've got Sylvester Stallone in there, for me, that just screams Rocky. You there, Stuart? Did I lose you?
Yeah, I think my screen's frozen though.
Let me remove you and then pull you back in. Maybe will that work? Yeah, I think your screen might be frozen. Try and maybe log out and then come back in if you want. Yeah, it looks like his screen wound up freezing. But to answer your question, I'm handsome, because I don't know if Michael B. Jordan is just trying to make more cash. No, I don't think so. I mean, well, granted, I think everybody's always trying to make a little bit more money. You know what I mean? But when it comes to Michael B. Jordan, I always feel like he always seemingly has his mind in the right place, right? It's not like he goes out and makes crappy movies just to try and make a ton of money. You know what I mean? I think he's just making some really great moves for his career, and it's showcasing itself here. When you're that talented, opportunities certainly open up for you for sure. But I've always seen Creed as a little bit of as a continuation of Rocky, certainly a spinoff, but definitely in that realm of a Rocky film. Like, granted, we have a Rocky collection, but when I think of it as an overall arc, if I'm sitting down and watching some Rocky movies after Rocky 5 or Rocky Balboa, I don't mind putting in Creed and continuing along that path. What do you think, though, Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, I would have been mad if it ended up being like a Rocky 7, because I thought Rocky Balboa was a perfect end to Rocky's arc. So unless it was passing the mantle, there was literally no other way they could have possibly continued Rocky's story, because like they literally tackled everything that you could possibly imagine with Rocky, like even the whole thing of him being too old, but coming out of retirement, even though he has the world against him. If they had just done that for a 7th Rocky movie, it would have been boring and no one would have cared. So they can't even do Rocky versus Raging Bull, because they technically already did that in like a kind of parody movie, I guess you could call it. But, so I don't know what they could have done. So I think, having it be a passing the torch film was the best direction they could have possibly gone in.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there too. I'm handsome wants to go ahead and point out Fantastic Four. It's one movie, man. It's one movie. Let's not sleep on just pick on one movie, man. This guy's massive, incredible career that he's had so far.
Almost every great actor out there has been in at least one really bad movie. I don't think it's possible to be like, have
a perfect record.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're going to become like a really big guy in Hollywood, you got to take some risks here and there, and not every risk will pay off. And in Michael Jordan's case, it was Fan Four Stick. That movie definitely was a little bit of a step back for him. But again, that's every actor in Hollywood.
I mean, he still made his part of it at least shine, right? Being the black Johnny Storm, which got people all worked up and stuff, right? Making an impact in some way in a really crappy movie in Fantastic Four. So Michael B. Jordan's still finding ways to go ahead and make waves, regardless of what movie that he's certainly in. Also, I mean, Chronicle, Fruitvale Station, Black Panther. I mean, good. I can keep going on. So yeah, just one movie doesn't mean that he's just out for money grabs. You know what I mean? Probably, I'm sure a lot of those people probably joined Fantastic Four thinking to themselves, maybe there's a chance this movie is good, and then they start putting it together, and I'm like, crap, can I get out of this movie, guys? Where's my contract? Can somebody help me? So we'll definitely see. But guys, listen, we want to know your thoughts. You hear this, Michael B. Jordan, official, directing his first movie in Creed 3. Do you think it's a great fit here? Are you looking forward to the next installment? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to our next topic. And Stuart, we're going to go ahead and dive into a little bit of our Star Wars talk here this weekend, man. We're going to get a little bit nerdy, maybe a little controversial for some people. We'll see what happens here,
And
man.
we
But
both have Star Wars shirts on. I just noticed.
yeah, I wish I had a better movie to represent, but it's okay. Anyway, we're gonna let's get into this. This past week, guys, it looks as though Disney, I believe, had themselves. Let me just see. I think it was a. I'm trying to think if they hosted a conference call for their investors. We have a lot of investor calls going on this week. AT&T, Disney had an investor call this week. And during their investor call, somebody actually questioned Bob Chapek as to what the future of Lucasfilm was certainly going to be, and as to whether or not Kathleen Kennedy was certainly still going to run the department. And according to Bob Chapek, a big thumbs up. Kathleen Kennedy seemingly is completely planning on sticking around, to the dismay of some unfortunate fans out there. But I just thought it would be interesting to tackle this topic here, just to really talk just about the idea of the state of Lucasfilm and really where it's going to be at. So let's tackle this real quick here, Stuart. This actually comes to us from StarWarsNews.net, as they bring us word here that Disney CEO Bob Chapek reaffirms that Kathleen Kennedy's secure future at Lucasfilm. It says, contrary to the perennial rumors that Lucasfilm CEO Kathleen Kennedy is on the way out, Disney CEO Bob Chapek has reaffirmed that she will be directing Lucasfilm activities for years to come. Earlier today, Disney hosted a conference call for investors to discuss the state of the company. It says, where'd it go? It says, nonetheless, there have been long-standing rumors over the past few years that Disney was looking to move on from Kathleen Kennedy in spite of her tenure at Lucasfilm being successful. One investor called in and brought up rumors that Lucasfilm animation executive and The Mandalorian executive producer, writer, and director Dave Filoni was going to take Kennedy's job. Bob Chapek swiftly dismissed any rumors of this nature by noting that Kennedy is not going anywhere. He goes on to say, he says, we've been absolutely thrilled that we can have a creative talent in our, what did I do there? To have a creative talent in our company, the likes of Kathleen Kennedy. We look forward to having Kathleen directing Lucasfilm activities for years to come, is what Chapek said. So it says that at one point, it seemed possible that Kennedy would step down from Lucasfilm following the completion of the fifth and final Indiana Jones film. Given that her involvement with the company began with Raiders of the Lost Ark that she helped develop and the other three sequels, it seems that completing the fifth and final adventure of Dr. Jones would be a perfect way for her bookend career. However, it seems like the legendary producer and current Lucasfilm president is staying put, and The Mandalorian and other Disney Plus content seem to be the perfect incentive for her to stay. In addition to Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron and upcoming Star Wars movies being developed by Kevin Feige, Taika Waititi, so far Rian Johnson, not to mention the film adaptation of Child of Blood and Bone. So a ton of things here that and then they go ahead and mention all the Disney Plus side of things with the huge announcements of Disney Plus television series that they wind up announcing just this past December here. So guys, it definitely seems as though Kathleen Kennedy's future is in fact secure at Lucasfilm. And I want to talk about this with you because I believe they mentioned that her contract actually ends this upcoming summer in 2021. Now, I do want to point out here, Stuart, Bob Chapek didn't say we've given her a brand new contract or we've extended her contract. So I'm very much under the impression that summer 2021 is certainly still a possibility. If Kathleen Kennedy wanted to move on, she certainly could. I mean, she has unveiled all these titles already, right? Kind of bringing them to the forefront. So if Kathleen Kennedy wants to step away, I'm sure she certainly could. But this is Bob Chapek certainly saying that, look, we plan on keeping her around. So I'm assuming that hopefully we will be seeing a extension here for Kathleen Kennedy, but who certainly knows? But let's talk about this here, Stuart. You hear this news that she's sticking around. What's your initial thoughts in regards to this?
I actually don't really have that much of a high opinion on her in general, as a producer. I think for the most part, she's definitely and I say that actually because I with all the things that I'm not a fan of with the Disney era of Star Wars, I can't really say 100% sure for 100% certainty how much of it was her decision or how much of it was other people's decision, because I look back on the Disney era of Star Wars and I think the only thing that's really disappointed me about it was really Rise of Skywalker, and not just because it wasn't a good movie, but more on the way they really gave in to all the trolls and all the people who didn't like The Last Jedi. And that's fine if you didn't like The Last Jedi. Let me just say that. Like, I can totally see why it wasn't a movie for everyone, and I could totally see why Disney would want to like try to make a very different film from The Last Jedi in order to please every Star Wars fan. I get that. But it was more about how they really gave in to some of the dumber complaints about The Last Jedi, such as, you know, I think the biggest example that a lot of people use is when it came to Rose's character and how a lot of people weren't a fan of her, rather than just, you know, writing her character differently in Rise of Skywalker, giving her a different role. They just kind of almost completely cut her from the movie. The whole thing about how you had John Boyega, who had like kind of, to me, I feel like The Last Jedi had a arc, you know, kind of set up for him, and then they just did absolutely nothing with it with the Rise of Skywalker. So basically, and then not to mention the fact that Rise of Skywalker just, I feel like, took one too many jabs at The Last Jedi in general, rather than them just moving on and being able to just say, okay, you know what, we had a movie that not everyone liked, but that's fine. We're just going to move forward like business as usual. But at the same time, I don't know how many of those decisions were actually hers and how many of them were J.J. Abrams. Because, yeah, I look at that as kind of like the biggest misstep for them. And then as well as I feel like the biggest issue with her, this one I can say was probably her fault. I think they tried to do too much with Star Wars way too early. The fact that right when they got the rights for Star Wars, they tried to have a new movie every single year. In fact, in one particular case, having a movie released 5 months after we had just gotten a Star Wars movie, because I think they were trying to make Star Wars like the new Marvel. I think that was just moving it way too fast. And I think I think that was like her other big mistake. But besides that, I look at everything good that she's done. And I look at how she has taken, Jon Favreau, and she's teamed him up with Dave Filoni, and together they have made one of the most incredible Star Wars contents that we've ever gotten. The Mandalorian is such an incredible show. And then we look at everything we got lined up going forward in the future. Excuse me. Had a weird hiccup cough there. Anyway, so I look at all of that, and I can say that, yeah, she's had some missteps for sure. And I'm definitely not trying to deny that. But I do feel like overall the good she's done with Star Wars definitely outweighs the bad. So I do think that if she were to stick on Star Wars for like another 5 or 6 years, I don't think it would be a misstep for the franchise. I do think the franchise could still grow and evolve in a good way.
And I would definitely agree with you there, Stuart, for sure. I feel like when it comes to somebody like Kathleen Kennedy, who's had such a huge impact in the world of movies. I mean, Steven Spielberg has come out and said that he believes that she's one of the best producers in all of Hollywood, like of all time, sort of thing. I mean, you look at just the producing credits that Kathleen Kennedy has had on her throughout all her years. They're classics, man, movies that we've grown up with, right? So Kathleen Kennedy certainly knows how to certainly do this job. And if there is anybody that I feel like that can rebound from some of the mistakes that maybe were certainly made, I'm definitely thinking it's probably going to be her. People can change. People can see a mess that they wind up creating and then maybe go into a completely different direction when you finally get your feet under you, right? I feel like you're absolutely right. While I personally am a fan of Kathleen Kennedy and what she's able to do, there have been missteps. I don't necessarily know if she's sort of that creative producer like that of like a Kevin Feige, where she should be getting involved per se in like storyline arcs or creative decisions and things like that. I would really rather her use her intelligence and just all her years of experience of doing that of producer role, going out, getting the creative minds that you need to put these stories together and see what you can certainly do. And I feel like she certainly took that back seat when it comes to The Mandalorian. And maybe that's why The Mandalorian is so successful. She recognizes the talent that she has on board with her, with a Jon Favreau, and a Dave Filoni and team them up together to go ahead and put this together. That's producing. That's her at her finest, and you get to see opportunities like that. I know when this Disney era for Star Wars certainly first began, it was a rush. It certainly was a rush. You know, the idea of like, hey, we've got this IP, we got to start dishing out movies and things like that, and they clearly went into it with no direction or no full sort of story kind of played out. And even with the story that they maybe might have had, the fact that they reacted so quickly to some of the louder voices online to go ahead and make significant changes that just didn't make any sense, it really butchered sort of the wrapping up of that sequel trilogy. So I understand the idea of people wanting to maybe see Kathleen Kennedy gone after first impressions of how it was certainly handled. But now we're moving past a different era of Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like we now that we're sort of done with that era of characters that we're used to, we're really branching out on new characters and new timelines, right? And so I don't think there's that immediate connection that Star Wars fans will have like we did with some of our original trilogy characters and felt super connected to them. And how dare you mess up, you know, how dare you mess with my characters? Now I think this is an opportunity for Disney to see how they messed up and how they can certainly correct it. And I feel like they're showcasing that to us brilliantly, right? They took their time to get a writer's room together for the High Republic books, which, if you ask me, I think are incredibly great. I've been really enjoying the High Republic stuff that we've gotten so far. You know, they came out with another Clone Wars series after that to go ahead and wrap up. We've got a huge announcements for spinoffs outside of from the Mandalorian series also. So I do feel like we're leaning into a new direction where Disney is maybe understanding their faults and maybe now correcting some courses here. You know, and for me, it just bothers me the fact that this has been such a long-lasting rumor that people have been really just in the most negative light trying to get Kathleen Kennedy sort of out of Lucasfilm a little bit. Just really now, I mean, there are literally YouTube channels out there, I feel like, that are like just focused on just hate and just really just putting out just a bad name of Kathleen Kennedy and have been pushing like false rumors and narratives. I mean, I've been hearing people talk about George Lucas is retconning The Last Jedi and he's going to be rewriting all of the sequels. I'm like, why do people listen to this negative ass stuff that just isn't true? So it's just, I hate the fact that it was a rumor to begin with, but you look at it from a business standpoint too, Stuart, right? I mean, the Star Wars The Force Awakens is still like the #1 domestic at the box office here in the US in regards to the biggest box office it's had in domestic here. It's also I think it brought in over like $2 billion. Most of the movies, I think all of the trilogy movies came in at least over $1 billion, right? So financially, you're Bob Chapek looking at this and you're thinking to yourself, she's making us a ton of money. She's still making us a ton of money despite how the reaction certainly is for certain movies. Now you can go back and look at Solo. Solo didn't do too well, but I almost feel like Solo probably could have been better if it didn't have to pretty much redo the entire movie and spend more money towards it. It might have actually had a nice little turnaround and a nice little small profit. I would never expect a Solo film to do $1 billion, but I actually thought it did pretty well. And I feel like Solo is a movie now that people are going back and watching and enjoying more their second or third time that they certainly are. So it goes to show you that there is life. There's life in this Disney era of Star Wars. And while it definitely coming out of the gate was rushed and they tripped over their feet and they had no plans, I'm going to give Kathleen Kennedy the benefit of the doubt because the movie still made money. And I just believe in people that they can learn from their mistakes and recognize that and change course and then start giving us something great. And I think The Mandalorian and the High Republic and all these spinoffs and Disney Plus era stuff, I'm really hoping that that's a way for us to get into just a new era of Star Wars. So I kind of like the idea here that Bob Chapek is standing next to his girl who just, you know, helped launch Disney Plus. I mean, the reason why people are, you know, scattered to Disney Plus in the first place was The Mandalorian. So I wouldn't want to give Kathleen Kennedy up either, to be perfectly honest with you. So Yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens. Again, I do believe her contract ends summer 2021, but the fact that Bob Chapek is saying, "Hey, we plan on having her around here for the long haul," we'll see what winds up happening there. But this makes sense to me. This makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say something that might be slightly controversial, but actually, first I'm going to say that I think Solo would have actually done a lot better if it wasn't released, like I kind of mentioned earlier, 5 months after The Last Jedi. I think that was kind of like the biggest
that hurt
downfall for it, for sure. The other thing is, man, I do feel like when it comes to like just women producers and directors, like it sucks for them, because if they make a single mistake, it's not like, you know, if a guy makes a mistake and people kind of go, oh man, you shouldn't have done that, where it's like if a woman makes a mistake, it always kind of leads to that mentality of see, this is proof women shouldn't be in Hollywood. And you know, it ends, I feel like the reactions to women that make mistakes is way more harsher a lot of times than it is with guys.
Oh, I agree. I think even Patty Jenkins wind up saying that. Like, if Wonder Woman had flopped, right? Like the you know how many the first one, you know how many opportunities Patty Jenkins probably would have lost. You know, that guys maybe would have gotten multiple opportunities and nobody would have batted an eyelash and be like, oh, you know what? Hey, it's a one-off for this person. Patty Jenkins has said it before that she feels like as a woman in Hollywood, whether it be directing or producing, especially when it comes to big tentpole films, right, that you almost have to knock it out of the park or people are going to just doubt you kind of going forward. So I definitely understand what you're saying there for sure, Stuart.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something else I wanted to mention too in regards to that. I lost it too off the top of my head though. Yeah, I lost it, but it's okay. But yeah, guys, listen, at the end of the day, though, we definitely want to know your thoughts in regards to this, you know, and I will say this, one of the other complaints that I had heard was the idea of like, you know, you go into The Force Awakens. I think The Force Awakens made over $2 billion or maybe just under. And then there's a huge there's a big drop when you wind up checking out The Last Jedi. But it's still like 1.4 billion dollars or something like that. The box office, like movies would die to go ahead and have a box office like that. And people will say, oh, well, because The Last Jedi sucked or it came out that way, that's why they had such a significant drop. I don't really see it that way. I see like The Force Awakens was an anomaly. You know, nobody thought that we were going to get Star Wars movies ever again after the prequels. So the idea that we had this huge announcement that The Force Awakens, we were going to be getting Star Wars again, that's like pop culture shifting. You know, that's like world altering sort of thing. So you can definitely expect a ton of people to come out for that big moment when it comes to just a cinematic event type of thing. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen very often in people's lifetime. So I don't really compare the box office and that moment for The Force Awakens to the other Star Wars films, because it's just not comparable. It's just not comparable.
Yeah, I do fully agree with that.
But listen, guys, at the end of the day, we want to know your thoughts. We definitely know that Kathleen Kennedy has certainly had her hiccups along the way. But if you look at her past career, it's unbelievable. And nobody's certainly going to take that away from her. Probably in the Hall of Fame when it comes to producers. But sometimes, you know, I felt like maybe she's maybe a little bit more creative, trying to be more creative and getting her hands more involved. But I do think that this is maybe Kathleen Kennedy going back to her roots and doing what she does best. And I think if she continues to focus on that as the head of Lucasfilm, maybe the era of Disney Plus Star Wars will certainly look significantly different as we certainly go forward. So keeping our fingers crossed for Kathleen Kennedy. If there's anybody that can rebound, it definitely is her. So we want to know your guys' thoughts, though. Let us know your thoughts in regards to her remaining the head of Lucasfilm in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. And all right, Stuart, with that out of the way, we will go ahead and jump into our next topic. We got 3 more topics here. We're going to really start diving into some DC and Marvel talk for you guys today. This one actually comes to us as a surprise as we get into some DC television talk. Doom Patrol season 3, if I'm not mistaken, I believe is currently filming. Last time I checked, but big things are certainly headed our way. And we wind up having some new casting announcements in regards to the upcoming season. And one casting announcement that I personally was not expecting, but super thrilled to see that we finally have her on board and getting involved in, say, the superhero realm to some capacity. But this comes comes to us from Deadline.com. For those of you who may know, you may be familiar with her, Doom Patrol, Michelle Gomez joins season 3 as a series regular, no less, will play Madame Rouge. Not too familiar with the character, so let's see what they say here. It says, Doom Patrol has found its Madame Rouge in the flight attendants, Michelle Gomez. I forgot she was in that series. Gomez, who also appeared as Madame Satan in Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, I do recall her from there, will join as a series regular and act alongside Diane Guerrero, April Bowlby, and Matt Bomer in Doom Patrol Season 3. She will appear as the DC Universe's complicated and electrifying eccentric who arrives at Doom Manor with a very specific mission. If only she could remember it, though. Yeah, guys, Michelle Gomez is in fact joining the ranks of Doom Patrol here. And if I could be honest, Stuart, I love this casting. Michelle Gomez, for me, has been an incredible actress. I know her mostly from her Doctor Who fame as the Master, and I've absolutely loved it. Just her chemistry and her personality and her wit and her sassiness. I love her confidence in herself. Also, just the way that she presents herself on screen against some fantastic actors. She captivates me every time that she's on the screen, honestly. So I recall her from Doctor Who. I do remember seeing her in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and very briefly in the Flight Attendant. I personally haven't watched all of the Flight Attendant, but my girlfriend has, I believe. But I think this is a great pickup. I think this is a perfect fit for her to kind of enter into a DC television in a way. And I'm not too familiar with Madame Rouge, but I don't know if she has lapses in memory or whatever the case may be. But I just really love this because talent always overcomes, and I just think this is another fantastic pickup for Doom Patrol. But you hear this, Stuart. What are your thoughts in regards to Michelle Gomez joining the crew?
Yeah, I think she's going to fit the role perfectly. I haven't seen much of her on Doctor Who because, unfortunately, the Peter Capaldi Doctor Who is kind of when I stopped watching, or it's when I stopped keeping up with it. But I have seen her
man.
in
Great seasons. If you do want to start catch up, definitely go ahead and check it out, man. You love it.
I definitely do plan to catch up at some point in the future. But I know that my girlfriend has been keeping up with Doctor Who, and she said that she really liked her. So when I told her that she was going to be in Doom Patrol, she thought that was actually a really good casting choice. It also gets me really excited that they're bringing her into the series, Madame Rouge, just because it means more than likely if they're bringing her in, they might be bringing in the Brotherhood of Evil. And I absolutely love the fact that she's like a huge villain when it comes to the Doom Patrol in general. And I love how they didn't try to like introduce her so early as in the first season. I love the fact that Doom Patrol is okay with taking their time with introducing certain villains and certain iconic things that you would normally come to expect from the Doom Patrol. And this being like definitely one of those major things that was so iconic, like for Doom Patrol back in the comic books, but yet they're still okay with like waiting until just now to finally introduce her. So I'm really excited for sure.
I'm glad you brought up the idea of the Brotherhood of Evil, because you're right. When it comes to Doom Patrol, they definitely do a great job of kind of building up their characters, if you will. Like, I mean, we've had like the Sex Men, if I'm not mistaken, from season 2, the Candlemaker from season 2, also some really big and just quirky names and characters from Doom Patrol. But they've utilized their time in those 2 seasons to just do great character work and great storytelling, to where now I feel like I'm ready to see this Doom Patrol actually go up against maybe possibly an actual team of villains themselves. I think that would be really interesting for them to go ahead and tackle. For those of you who are not familiar with Madame Rouge, though, just going over to her Wikipedia page, it says Laura Des Mille was originally a French stage actress. After an automobile accident, she developed a dual good-evil split personality. At this point, she attracted the notice of The Brain and his associate. With their help, The Brain performed surgery on DeMille that was, from her perspective, successful, supplementing her good personality and allowing her evil personality to remain dominant. As Madame Rouge, she became the only female member of the Brotherhood of Evil and assisted the Brotherhood in its continuing conflicts against the Doom Patrol. It says at first, Madame Rouge was simply a master of disguise. Subsequent surgery by the brain eventually gave her the ability to alter her appearance and stretch her limbs also. So I don't really know exactly how much of that will transfer over. It says her split personality eventually manifested again, and she actually eventually was romantically linked to Niles Calder at some point in time in the comic books also. So we'll see how far into their lore they actually get with her in this, but I am excited, and I'm really hoping that this is Doom Patrol's way of letting us know that maybe we could be seeing more of the Brotherhood of Evil to be taking place. Do you think that that's what that means, that we're going to have a full team of villains here, or do you think they're just gonna like sprinkle them in from time to time this season?
I'm definitely expecting the full-on Brotherhood of Evil this season, only because the show has been so comic book accurate for the longest time. So I feel like it would be a real big surprise for me personally if they didn't have the entire Brotherhood of Evil added to the season. Like, and I'm not even saying that they might be the main villains this season, but I could definitely see them at least being introduced and her maybe being the main focus of the season. And I also do look forward to how they kind of reveal the if they stick with the comic books, her relationship with Niles Calder in the past. And yeah, the one thing we won't get from this, which is unfortunate, is there was a comic book storyline that I absolutely loved. It was like a mini arc, and it wasn't really canon, I guess, to the DC universe. It was kind of more of a what if story arc, but it was with Beast Boy as an adult and trying to kind of move on with his life from the Teen Titans and the Doom Patrol and trying to live out his life as an adult, but his past keeps coming to bite him in the ass, and she ended up being like the main villain of that comic book. So it is like one of those things where I know that's like a storyline we may not get, but that's kind of like where I mostly know of her character from. So I am definitely excited to see her as a main villain for the Doom, or as a villain for the Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe they take that storyline and just apply it to another member on this particular team if that's the route that they want to go. But for me, I think I'm just excited also that it's not necessarily just a recurring position, that they say that it's a series regular. So I'm very much on the impression, that she is going to have a significant role this season for sure, and maybe see her in quite a few episodes. So I'm eager, especially considering just the cliffhanger that they wind up leaving us on for season 2. I'm thinking to myself, one, how many episodes are we getting this season? How are they going to tackle the Candlemaker stuff and Madame Rouge and possibly the Brotherhood of Evil? We'll definitely see. It looks like Doom Patrol season 3 is turning out to be something special here, guys, especially with an incredible talent like Michelle Gomez brought on board. But I'm really eager for it, guys. But listen, we want to know your thoughts. What do you think about Michelle Gomez from all of her Doctor Who, Sabrina, flight attendant fame coming on board with Doom Patrol season 3? Do you like the pickup? Do you like the casting? Go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. Any last words in regards to that, Stuart?
No, just I'm excited for season 3 because Doom Patrol is probably my favorite superhero show still.
Which is, it's when they told me they were doing the Doom Patrol, it was just the characters that I had no idea about. Like, I heard of them, but I'm like, I don't know who these guys are. They're just weird. I have no idea. And then you watch it and they just make you fall in love with these characters, man. It's just such great storytelling. The ability to be able to take just that type of comic book and make it into a television series that's just incredible the way that it is. It's a feat in and of itself. You know what I'm saying? And so if people are still sleeping on Doom Patrol, please do yourselves a favor, guys. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. We try and recommend great quality television to you guys here. So definitely check it out whenever you get the chance to.
What I think works so well about the show is that you have some of the most ridiculous plots, some of the most ridiculous like kind of concepts, but you have characters that are very grounded and relatable. And so it's like when you take these ridiculous scenarios and you put these type of characters in them, it just makes it so much more enjoyable to watch, when you have the characters that you can relate to.
And a lot of heart too, they do manage a lot of heart for sure. All right, guys, with that out of the way, we will tackle our last DC storyline for you guys as the Flash movie continues to make development here. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're supposed to be beginning filming, if if not this spring, then definitely this summer of this year to go ahead and get this Flash movie finally headed our way. And so in the regards of developing this film, casting has in fact continued and is at least rolling out in regards to some of its announcements. And so while we do have ourselves a Barry Allen already cast, anytime that you have to deal with, say, a Flashpoint storyline, a very important and integral role in that storyline is in fact Barry Allen's mom in Nora Allen. And so guys, as of this week, we finally have Barry Allen's mom officially cast for this role. Let's go ahead and pull this up and see who the actress is. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, letting us know that for the Flash movie, the Spanish actress Maribel Verdú to play Barry Allen's mother. This is an exclusive reveal here from the Hollywood Reporter. It says, Flash fans know what an important role Barry Allen's mother plays in the life of the Scarlet Speedster, and it's a character that will figure prominently in the big screen adaptation being made by Warner Brothers and DC. Now the actress to play the part has been found. Maribel Verdú, best known to international audiences for her work in Alfonso Cuarón's Y Tu Mama También and Guillermo del Toro's Pan Labyrinth, will play the key role in The Flash, which is casting up and prepping for a spring-summer shoot in England. But at the same time as he gains his mother, he is losing his dad. Sources tell the Hollywood Reporter that Bill Crudup, who was set to play the father role, which I believe he is in the Justice League movie, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, who played Barry's father, has dropped out of the project. Crudup is also due to shoot the new season of Apple's The Morning Show, for which he won an Emmy, and schedules conflicted. This part will be recast also, but we also did have an announcement too that the move comes as Kiersey Clemons, who has been associated with the Flash through several incarnations, straightened her schedule and closed her deal this week. She is playing Iris West, Allen's romantic interest. And for those of you interested, Kiersey Clemons does pop up in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Originally, she was supposed to be in the Justice League movie. Joss Whedon cut her part out of the film, but the Justice League movie that we're going to be getting here on March 18th will see Kiersey Clemons as Iris West in that movie, and she's going to be reprising her role now for the Flash movie also. So kudos to Kiersey Clemons. I'm so glad that she's getting this opportunity to finally reprise her role. I was really worried that would be a missed opportunity. Bill Crudup as Barry's father is unfortunately, I'm a big fan of his. Unfortunately, has to be recast now. But the star of the hour here, Maribel Verdú, is in fact being cast as Nora Allen. So, Stuart, you know the impact that Nora Allen has had when it comes to the Flash, especially when it comes to her importance in the role of the Flashpoint. For those of you who don't know, feel free to let people in on how she certainly plays into the Flashpoint storyline. But what do you think about this casting choice in regards to Maribel Verdú?
Oh man, I got to be totally honest. I think it's because I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but I'm trying to remember which role she played in Pan's Labyrinth, and I do not remember. She wasn't the mother. I think she was the helper.
Because the mother was sick, and so I think we just tried to watch it last night, me and the girlfriend, but we wind up throwing it on so late. I just couldn't stay up to finish it. But she does play a character by the name of Carmen, which I believe is the stepdad's aide. And she winds up helping Ophelia, the main character, the little girl, as she gets acclimated to her new home and things like that. So she's not the mother, but she's definitely more the caretaker, if you will.
Okay. Then yeah, I do think they have a good casting call for her for sure. So I think that's the only thing I've seen her in. But regardless, the fact that they're involving her in the story definitely kind of gives more concrete information of what kind of story we can be looking forward to when it comes to Flashpoint. Like, we already kind of knew it had to do with time travel, but now we know it's probably going to revolve around Barry going back in time to rescue his mother. So I'm definitely excited to see how she does in that role. I am kind of bummed, not gonna lie, to find out that they are recasting Barry Allen's dad, but it is cool that they're keeping the same actress to play Iris West in the movie, though. And yeah, I definitely look forward to seeing how she does as Barry Allen's mom.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I'm probably gonna finish Pan's Labyrinth probably sometime this weekend or this week if I can. I had seen it once in the movie theaters and I absolutely loved it. It's definitely what got me attached to Guillermo del Toro's work. Revisiting it a little bit as of yesterday, it was pretty cool to see Maribel in that role again and kind of get just reminded as to the significance that she certainly plays in that film. If you haven't checked it out, please go ahead and do so. Especially if you're into Guillermo del Toro. If you're into del Toro, you've probably already seen this movie, honestly. But if you've never really seen his work, I will say this: it's all in Spanish, English subtitles and things like that. So if you don't mind reading, if you don't mind watching subtitle films, definitely go ahead and check it out if you want to go ahead and see exactly what she's going to bring to this particular film. But I do like this casting. I do think it's right up their alley. I love the fact that we are finally getting this movie. It's really about to happen here. And I'm like you, Stuart. I am a little bit bummed that we don't have the father certainly coming back for this movie. I'm sure that they'll probably recast them and it'll probably be a great choice. But it is a little bit of a bummer because I was a really big fan of his. But yeah, it seems as though the idea of Barry, saving his mom, changing the timeline, creating a paradox, and creating this flashpoint, if you will, certainly will be the main focus. And you get to really see just the significance of what Nora Allen's role is going to be in this movie. So I'm glad that they finally found her.
Mm-hmm. And we just know, like, after this movie airs in theaters, the big trending hashtag on Twitter is going to be "Damn it, Barry."
Yeah, this is going to come back for sure. We're going to be blaming everything on Barry again. But guys, listen, we want to know your thoughts. The Flash has, in fact, found Nora Allen for Barry. What are your thoughts? So go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Stuart, and this is going to be our last story that we're going to tackle for the day as we get into some Marvel news. Listen, guys, Marvel is just kicking things off again. Now that restrictions are being lifted a little bit more, we've been getting a ton of Disney Plus series. We had WandaVision that wind up wrapping up successfully this week. We've got the Falcon and the Winter Soldier set to start beginning this upcoming Friday on Disney Plus. We know that we're supposed to be getting a ton of movies this year. I think we got what, like 4 movies coming out. We got Black Widow, we got the Eternals, Shang-Chi. And I feel like there's even one more Spider-Man this year also. So they're definitely not holding anything back. But one of the other movies that's currently in production right now is, in fact, Doctor Strange 2. We got Benedict Cumberbatch returning to be in his role. And this time around, we have ourselves a new director in Sam Raimi, most notably known from his Spider-Man fame, his Evil Dead series fame as well, is in fact tackling Doctor Strange. And so this past week, Benedict Cumberbatch actually came out and spoke a little bit about his collaboration with Sam Raimi and how it's been going so far. So let's go ahead and tackle this real quick, Stuart. This actually comes to us from Collider.com as they got the opportunity to interview Benedict Cumberbatch. It does say here, first off, I love the fact it says it's a catch-22 us entertainment journalists find ourselves in. When you interview an MCU star, you want to ask them about their next MCU film. But these stars are sworn to such levels of secrecy, they simply can't reveal anything. What is one to do? It says, well, if one of our own, Steve Weintraub, interviewed Benedict Cumberbatch, and he says Cumberbatch's response is blunt, cheeky, and exactly what we were all thinking. He says, I mean, we know that what he says, we know what a dead end it's going to be. But yes, of course, you can waste your time in asking a Marvel question, is what he said. And so this is what they asked them in regards to asking him about what it's been like working with Sam Raimi. And he says, Sam's amazing. He's so collaborative. God, he comes with the baggage of an icon. He's an incredible force, especially in this genre. But he's so humble. He's so nice. And he's so appreciative. You really want to serve him. And boy, when he's happy, you know you've done something right. He's so good at getting you there and getting it there. It's been a very, very collaborative process, this one. Our origin stories, I guess, and obviously the beasts that were the Avengers film to be a part of were a thrill, but you're kind of just along for the ride. You do the best of what you've already got, what you've got given to do. The second time around, there's a bit more of, so what do we want to do and how do we go about solving this? It feels so creative, scarily so sometimes, is what he wound up saying. So definitely high praise for Sam Raimi here, coming from somebody as talented as Benedict Cumberbatch, who seemingly has probably done a ton of his stuff in his career, but still manages to be surprised and just taken aback by what Sam Raimi certainly provides here. And I got to say, Stuart, I love what he's saying here, the idea of them being very collaborative. Clearly, you've got somebody like Benedict Cumberbatch who, he spent years with this character as Doctor Strange, right? Formulating his own style, if you will, knowing what it takes to be this character. So to have Sam Raimi come in and to be able to team up with Benedict Cumberbatch, who's already talented, but already knows his character from the inside out, I kind of like the idea that they're kind of, bouncing some collaboration off of each other and maybe creating something spectacular. I think Sam Raimi probably fits this role for Doctor Strange director to the T. I've always been fascinated by his style, whether it be I feel like when you sit down and you watch a Sam Raimi movie, you immediately know it's a Sam Raimi movie just from his style. He's very much one of those stylistic directors. Kind of reminds me that not so much like I want to say Michael Bay and Zack Snyder in a sense, not because of the type of movies that he makes, but just when you see their movies, you automatically know sort of it's them. He kind of brings that sort of similar style. But I cannot wait for this movie. I feel like my anticipation level for this definitely shot through the roof when I heard Sam Raimi was on board. But the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch is talking such praise and how the movie is certainly coming along, this definitely does make me even more excited for this film. But you hear something of what Benedict Cumberbatch is saying, Stuart. What's your response to this?
Yeah, I have a lot of high hopes for this film, especially because, I've already liked Sam Raimi before hearing this interview. Like, as a director, not only do I love Spider-Man 1 and 2, and do I think that Spider-Man 3 is not too bad. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say, but, I definitely understand the complaints. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. He has a very specific style. I guess I would describe it as it feels classic, but not like dated, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely feels like old school, but not in like a dated sense at all. So I definitely look forward to seeing how he brings that to the table. And I'm really hoping, because I know that Scott Derrickson's original direction that he wanted to take this in was to give it a little bit more of a horror feel to this. So I really hope they allow Sam Raimi to do that, because we know that Sam Raimi can do horror really well. He can do not just like horror, but he can have like a lot of fun with the horror elements too. So he can still make it, he can make it scary, but he can still make it appropriate for all audiences. He can still make it a movie that you can still take your kids to see, because something that a lot of people don't realize about kids. Kids love being scared. So I really hope, we get something like this from Doctor Strange. We get a fun kind of action horror type of film. And I'm definitely excited for it. Again, I look forward to him being able to take that flair that he gave to the original Spider-Man trilogy and to bring that into Doctor Strange. Maybe even get a little few elements of Darkman in there as well.
A Darkman reference. I love it. I love it. Yeah, the fact that he's saying that he's like an incredible force, like he does come with a lot of baggage. I mean, this guy's been around, he's tackled these big tentpole blockbuster films before. So it's not like we're getting ourselves a first-time director on a new superhero film, right? This guy knows exactly what he's doing. And I'm glad that you brought up the idea of just the horror element that Sam Raimi could certainly bring, because it does kind of make me go back to Spider-Man 2 a little bit with Dr. Octopus. There's a scene in there where we've got Doc Ock after the attack, where everything goes wrong in his lab, and they take him to, I guess, try and take his tentacles off of his body, and he's in the operation room. I love the way Sam Raimi just films that, because he films it very much like a horror scene, just like these uncontrollable arms coming out and killing people and things like that. Just some of the shot selections, the close-ups, the blood-curdling screams that he highlights. There is a very fun horror sort of classic element that he kind of brings to it that does heighten your senses of being scared, but is not too frightening. It's very much like you mentioned, there's like a classic horror vibe. And I just think that his style would work so well for darkening up that world of Doctor Strange just a little bit, but still being able to have fun in those quirky moments throughout the movie. But when it's time to really tap into that chilling type of a horror aspect, I think Sam Raimi could really knock it out of the park. So when you mentioned that, that's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because you look back at the first Spider-Man movie, which of course was a movie that I feel like there had to have been a lot of pressure for this movie to succeed.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if it was going to be like if it was going to be like a representation for superhero movies going forward. So one of the big things that Sony did is they had a lot of creative control over it, even though it was Sam Raimi's movie. And so they essentially made him change the Green Goblin's mask, because they said the original design for it was way too scary.
It was
really creepy.
It scared me.
So I am hoping that Kevin Feige allows him to make this movie creepy, as long as it's not like going full on R-rated horror, like as long as they can still make it like family friendly and everything. I'm sure, knowing Kevin Feige, knowing that he knows what the fans want from Marvel films, and he always tries to give it to them, I have almost no doubt that we might get something that we normally wouldn't have gotten from his Spider-Man movie back when he originally tried to go with the Green Goblin mask. We might get something like that, something that Sony would have originally been like, no, too scary.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely seems like he enjoys to work with some practical effects. I mean, don't get me wrong, Doctor Strange is going to be filled with a bunch of CG. Don't understand what I'm not saying, but he definitely does like tackling some practical effects. I mean, you do make that Spider-Man reference great. First movie that comes to mind also is just some of his Evil Dead work, that you can see just really creepy designs. Even Drag Me to Hell that he wind up doing, I think, was another creepy one that they wind up coming up with some great character designs for also. Granted, I know he's not in charge of the costume designs and that type of stuff, but maybe if you can have that creative presence to, be like, hey, we got this character in Nightmare that we want to bring. Can we get a really creepy Nightmare vibe? I would love to see that kind of character brought to life a little bit. But Sam Raimi is no slouch when it comes to giving you superhero action, but also being able to add in those elements of horror with just his incredible style of filmmaking. So I think this is a match made in heaven, and I think the excitement level that you see coming from somebody like a Benedict Cumberbatch, and just seeing how open Sam Raimi is to people's ideas and flowing with this movie as he's developing it, I think says a lot, and certainly goes a long way in regards to the potential of what this movie certainly could be, for sure.
Yep. And I feel like I bring this up every time we talk about Doctor Strange 2. Fingers crossed for that. And I'm pretty sure it's happening now, because I think there was actually a tweet about it recently from the actor. But Bruce Campbell cameo, that's what I'm really hoping for. He recently tweeted that he just finished filming a certain scene with a certain director in a certain location, but obviously gave zero specifics. But I feel like all of us fans kind of know, oh, he's talking about Doctor Strange.
He totally is. He totally is. Let's see here. And real quick, this is from AJ. AJ just says, what's the difference between special effects and visual effects? I'm getting confused. Well, according to what's this real another website, special effects versus visual effects, it says special effects, SFX, refers to on-set visual effects techniques. You could also call them practical effects. VFX is abbreviation for video effects. So video effects enable filmmakers to achieve the same effects as on-set special effects during post-production. So yeah, there's a little bit of clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. And then, you know what? I think other than that, guys, I think that's probably going to do it for all of our stories here. If anything, I think that probably will wrap it up for us. Any last words in regards to this story, though, Stuart?
Just I'm super excited for it. That's
Yeah, me too, man. I'm right there on board with you. But listen, guys, we want to know your thoughts. You hear this, that Sam Raimi is doing a spectacular job, according to Benedict Cumberbatch so far. Really loving getting the opportunity to work with him. How excited are you for Doctor Strange 2 and the idea of Sam Raimi directing this film? We definitely want to go ahead and know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, guys, I think that's going to go ahead and actually wrap up all of our stories here for the day. But we're going to go ahead and tackle some of your live viewer questions, guys. So let's go ahead and start getting into that. And then maybe we'll jump into the comment sections with you guys to go ahead and get all caught up here. But we got actually quite a few entries here, Stuart. So let's go ahead and start tackling some of these questions. Let's see here. Jessica Friedman, appreciate it, Jessica. Thank you very much for your questions. Oh, actually, go ahead. Let's change this banner out real quick. There we go. She says, do you think we'll get a big crossover event next year? And would you like to see Miles Morales get his own animated series one day? Has he ever had his own animated series at all? I don't believe
animated series. No, I don't believe so.
No.
He's been featured in Peter Parker Spider-Man cartoons, but never like with his never like in his own series.
Okay. I wouldn't mind that, but I feel like they might have bigger plans for him. But then again, you know what? They can do multiple things. You know what I'm saying? So they can still have Miles Morales on the big screen and on the small screen. So yeah, why not? Let's go ahead and give him his own animated series one day. Big crossover event next year. She doesn't really imply whether she means Marvel or DC. I'm thinking DC TV, perhaps. You think that that's what she might be referring to? Do you think we'll get a big crossover event next year?
I'm hoping next year because I believe that would be the 10th anniversary of Arrow, if I'm not mistaken. And I feel like for anniversaries, you got to do something big for, 10, 15, 20-year anniversaries, that type of thing. So I'm really hoping we get like a TV Justice League kind of event because I feel like that would be the perfect way to kind of, celebrate 10 years of the Arrowverse.
Oh, that would be pretty neat. You good? That's a good point. The idea that, damn, it's been 10 years. That's pretty crazy, man. I wouldn't mind seeing that though. Let's see here. This is from AJ. He says, what were your thoughts on episode 2 of The Flash and this week's Black Lightning and Superman and Lois? What did you think about, well, I know, Stuart, you already posted your Superman and Lois episode 3 review, doing pretty well over on the channel. What are your thoughts in regards to Black Lightning and Flash this week?
Flash, I actually really love this recent episode of The Flash, and the little cliffhanger ending that they left us out on. I don't want to spoil it. I really look forward to seeing where that goes. As for Black Lightning, wasn't the biggest fan of the newest episode, and okay, so something I've been kind of finding really funny recently with some Arrowverse shows, is the idea of like actors that'll end up leaving, and so they'll end up like finding new ways to replace them within the show. Mm-hmm. Like, what happened to just kind of replacing the actor and just kind of moving on? Because I thought that was like weird, like because I thought the whole thing with Jennifer was supposed to be that they were just kind of give her a break. So that was going to be like the thing is they were going to have her put herself back together for like over the next course of the several episodes. So the actress who clearly kind of lost interest in the show could have like a bit of a break. So it was really weird to see that it's like, nope, they put her together right away and she's played by a different actress. Like if that was kind of the case, why not just start out the series with a new actress? It's kind of how I feel. The same thing with Ralph Dimley. I always pronounce that last name incorrectly. And with when they originally announced that they were going to replace Kate Kane's character, not just the actress, just kind of, I find it weird that they seem so against replacing actors nowadays on the specifically for the Arrowverse.
I actually didn't mind it so much. I was actually a really big fan of the move, just because I know China McClain has come out and talked about the idea that she wasn't going to be on this series very, very long. I don't know if it was a decision that she made in the process of filming season 4, or maybe they wanted a finality sort of to her arc, if you will. You know, I feel like she might have told them this maybe before, I believe before they might have actually started filming this season. So Salim definitely knew ahead of time. So that's probably why that they were slowly teasing the idea that something was certainly wrong with Jennifer as the season wound up beginning. You know, we saw teases of, you know, her body turning into more molecular energy and things like that. So I guess they were trying to at least prepare us for this moment, because she has come out and said that she wasn't going to be in the show very much this entire season. It wasn't necessarily a case of taking a break so much as it is, I'm done with acting, you know what I'm saying, or I'm done with this sort of thing. So I get the idea of Salim kind of being put into a situation where you got to figure something out, right? You still want to utilize the character in Jennifer because she plays a significant role in the show, and you clearly have plans for her to also be in the upcoming spin-off series for Painkiller. So how do you keep Jennifer around with her still being her to a certain extent? And for me, I didn't know that this is how they were going to write China McClain off of the show. But the fact that they open it up and it's somebody completely brand new, I thought it was pretty brilliant. I thought it was pretty cool in regards to how he pulled it off in using a scientific manner, if you will, to go ahead and change the appearance of the character. I mean, I'm sure it's still Jennifer, still same memories and things like that, just a completely different appearance. But I almost hearken this decision to being a better one than I thought how the Kate Kane situation was sort of handled over on Batwoman. But clearly two significantly different things, because Kate Kane's a main part of your series, you know, whereas Jennifer, she's not necessarily the main title character, if you will, like Jefferson, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't mind it so much. But trust me, you know, our Black Lightning review is doing stellar right now. The fact that I think this episode really rattled a lot of people, whether it be for good or bad, I think certainly says something just in general about the storytelling this week. But yeah, so let's see. What else we got here? I didn't get a chance to watch The Flash or Superman this week, so that is on my thing to check out this week.
Yeah, I sadly, you know, and maybe I was a little bit too harsh on it. I gave episode 3 a really negative review, not like super negative, but I was definitely kind of harsh on my review for it.
Superman
when I'm kind of like, yeah, for episode 3. And I think looking back on it, I definitely would have done my review slightly differently. And I think part of it was just that, like, episodes 1 and 2 were so good, and the only aspects of the show that I wasn't a fan of was the high school aspects. And episode 3 focused a lot on the high school aspects, which they still, the high school parts are the one thing that feel way too CW-ish. And, you know, so it kind of feels such like so out of place whenever they go to high school, but then whenever they focus back on Superman and Lois, or just, you know, the families in the family dramas in general, it's like that stuff is like, you know, A tier, but then you go to the high school aspects and it's C tier, and it's that weird whiplash between the two. It just feels so like unbalanced. So I really hope the high school elements get a lot better. Like the bullies in the high school feel way less two-dimensional, because I think that's like the biggest issue I have, is the high school characters feel so two-dimensional, and again, it feels so out of place for a well-written show like this.
This is what I thought with Stargirl, like the first 1 or 2 episodes, I'm just like, oh, just generic bullies, and then next thing you know, they turn out to be like Brotherhood of, you know, they wind up turning out to be great characters and villains themselves as they wind up progressing. So maybe there'll be some character development there. He says, why do you guys think a lot of horror or slasher films always end up being really bad and generic? I think horror films is just hard to make, man. I think horror films and comedy are probably like the 2 hardest movies to make.
I'd say they're the easiest and hardest at the same time. They're the easiest to make in terms of like production wise, but they're also the hardest to get people interested in, because almost any original idea that you can possibly have has been done. Right? It's so hard to come up with an original concept for a horror movie, you know? So I guess like because of that, a lot of horror directors tend to not really want to try as much in risk of, you know, trying something new and failing. So rather they just would rather do kind of something very similar, but like just have. So I think like if you can't come up with an original idea, the smart way to go about it is just have fun with the idea that you have. Because, you know, at the very least, your horror movie can be entertaining.
Yeah, and slasher films, I feel like when if you know you're going to watch a slasher film, I think you already know what you're expecting, blood, guts,
Mhm.
gore type of thing, right? So it can be a little bit hard to divert from that a little bit, but there are some good ones out there. Don't certainly don't get me wrong. Let's see here because I do love me a good horror film from time to time.
Oh yeah.
Top five best or worst action movies you've ever seen. I don't know if I have a top five right off hand. Terminator Judgment Day is up there for sure when it comes to action movies. I'll even put maybe one of the Raid movies up there. John Wick has been pretty incredible. You got any great action movies?
Terminator 2 is my all-time favorite action film ever. um
I feel
trying
like
to
True Lies, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Curtis, I think is another great one as far as action movies go. I used to love Last Action Hero as a kid. Have you ever watched that Arnold Schwarzenegger one? Where he was the
yeah,
action
that
star.
yeah, I always thought that movie was hilarious. Like the scene where even as a kid, I knew
It was
exactly what it was. Is
cheesy
like when
but
he
hilarious.
hands oh yeah, very cheesy, but he hands like Arnold the paper and says, "Hey, say this word," and Arnold's like, "Grow up, kid." See, you can't say it because this is a PG-13 movie. Like as a kid, that cracked me up.
Yeah, it was pretty off the wall. I agree, man. Let's see here. I'm Handsome has a couple questions. Do you guys think that the CW has a bad rap for turning comic book characters into characters that aren't comic accurate or being woke by changing how the characters look, like either race or gender or sexual orientation?
No, I think the changes that we see on the CW that from the comic books onto the screen is the same thing that we get most of the time with movies. And even then, I think with DC, a lot of characters within the comic books go through so many changes all the time. So
Mm.
them kind of like making their own different changes every now and then to the characters really just kind of adds to that world of DC because DC does it themselves. Like I think Green Arrow is kind of the best example because he's gone from being a hilarious character to being a really dark character as well. Like we've gotten several different depictions of him. So I think the CW handles it all really well.
Yeah, I actually do think they handle them pretty well also too. I mean, I never felt like they ever fundamentally change who the character is, you know. I feel like they certainly stick true to a lot of who they are. I feel like they try and be as comic book accurate as they can from time to time. But you got to take your liberties and certainly make these characters feel more relevant to today. Climate is certainly has changed and things like that, but I still feel like the changes that they do make don't necessarily take away from who they are as characters. And
Mhm.
I still think that they stick really true to who they are. And I think that's probably why a lot of these characters are relatable or people still come back to watch them week after week. So I think the changes are really subtle. And I think those changes are just made for them to fit more in our current climate and environment than anything else. So no, I don't think they have a bad rap. I just think people just don't know how to handle that type of stuff is all.
Yeah, and the big thing is, I love comic books, right? That said, a lot of times because something looks good on a comic book doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look the same on the screen. Like there's a reason comic books are written the way they are and television shows are written the way they are. It wouldn't really work as well if you tried switching it the other way around. Like if you wrote an episode of Arrow to be on a comic book or you had a Green Arrow comic book as an episode of Arrow, it would be a disaster.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. You gotta take some liberties and adapt it for sure. If you could take a guess, what do you think the first episode of Supergirl will be about, or how it would start? Oh God, I don't even remember how season 5 ended. Honestly, my attention span is like I watch so much stuff. Honestly, um, I don't know. I hope it starts off with Supergirl saving somebody's life. I'm a big fan of of superheroes doing heroic things to start off. Like I want to see a heroic tests of strengths or being put in crazy predicaments to kind of get our hype ready for the entire season to kind of showcase what this particular hero is certainly capable of. So give me a big Supergirl action sequence to kind of open up. I would be perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, I think as long as just because I wasn't the biggest fan of season 5, I really hope they kind of just wrap up season 5 within the first episode so we can move on immediately once episode 2 comes.
Well, that's right. We didn't even finish that. Damn. COVID really threw everything off. I forgot that we didn't even wrap it up. So we still got one more episode left to go. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I hope they do a pretty good job about it. I felt like they maybe tried to wrap up some stuff in like that final episode, but maybe they have more for us here too. So we'll definitely see. What movie or TV franchise have you seen that has been incredibly ruined, or comic book or video game adaptation that ended up being garbage? What movie or TV franchise have you seen that's been incredibly ruined?
Oh, so like an
Or
adaptation that just was ruined, like didn't represent like the original, the original spirit, I guess, of what was
I'm
happening.
assuming so, yeah.
There's quite a few. I mean, I feel like my answer might be a little bit obvious. Like, I kind of feel like both Titans and Dawn of Justice are kind of my two big examples that I can think of currently. Fan Four Stick would also kind of be up there as well.
Which one?
Fantastic Four, but I always call it Fan Four Stick because of the way it's written.
I like it. That's funny. It just hit me too. That's funny. All right. Yeah, I'll have to think on that one. I'm handsome for sure. Let's see here. Dino Fury has a couple questions for us also. What were your guys' thoughts when Titans first announced? What were your guys' thoughts when Titans first announced to be a CW show? Did it please longtime fans of the animated TV series? I think you mean DC Universe show. Titans, unfortunately, was never a CW show. So what were your guys' thoughts when Titans first announced? Did it please longtime fans? No, it did not please longtime fans. The animated series is very much significantly different than what we wind up getting from Titans DCEU. I mean, talk about a tonal shift, right? I think they definitely went more with a grown-up version of Titans. Definitely, I feel like more like a 2000 sort of era run of maybe Titans, if you will, going into their dark bag a little bit. So no, I would say probably didn't please a lot of longtime fans of either new Teen Titans or an animated Teen Titans series, to say the least. So yeah, but what would you say, Stuart? You agree?
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard the show was announced, I actually was really excited because, yeah, Teen Titans, again, my personal favorite superhero team of all time. Like, the Jeff Johns run of Teen Titans was what got me into comic books. But yeah, the show, it's ironic for a show where you get characters that rarely wear superhero costumes. They somehow just can't get the humanity of the characters right, which is what I find really bizarre about the series overall. I feel like every time I talk about the show, I'm such a negative Nancy. I'm sorry. I know it has this fan base out there, and if you guys like Titans, that is totally fine. You are allowed to like it. It's not my show, and I'm hoping season 3 will change my mind. I am still going into season 3 with hopes that maybe this will be what turns it around on me. But as of now, I'm still not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't mind the show. I definitely enjoy aspects of it, but I definitely don't mind being critical of it in areas that I feel like it certainly needs work on. I mean, when they first announced it, though, yeah, I was super thrilled because I've always wanted to see Titans in a live action form, whether it be movies or television. But I felt like for the most part, a lot of people went into Titans with certain expectations of what we were going to get, and then once they actually dropped the first trailer, we were like, what the fuck, Batman? What? Like, what is going on here? What are we getting? And then you realize it's called Titans. It's not called Teen Titans. It's not called New Teen Titans. So it's definitely a different time and place in their lives that they certainly were exploring, but definitely not what I think us fans were expecting. So it definitely took people by surprise, and I think a lot of people had to kind of change their expectations going into the first episode in the series and seeing what they were expecting. So interesting stuff. So yeah, while I was certainly thrilled, I don't necessarily know if it's garnered that that much support after it was revealed.
And I think what frustrates me the most about it is the fact that I keep coming back to it, because I see that it's like with Batwoman. I see that there's a lot of talent working on the show. I see that there are definitely talented writers on the show. I feel like they can't get the format right. They just haven't figured out what they want to do with it yet. And that's what kind of makes it frustrating is I feel like I keep coming back hoping that this will be the episode where they finally figure out the direction they want to go in. And for a while in season 2, they almost had it. I feel like they almost had it in like the beginning of season 2, and then they just kind of lost it. And then they went back to being super confused. It's how I feel with, Batwoman 2. Like the first episodes of season 2 were a little mixed, but then it started to have a couple of really good episodes, and then the last 3 have just been really bad.
Yeah, no, it's definitely was odd seeing how certainly some of these seasons wind up wrapping up, unfortunately. But let's see here. We got a next question. Why do you think Hollywood keeps taking popular fan favorite characters and turning them into live action? How often do they succeed or fail? Any adaptations you found amazing or straight up just sucked ass? I think they keep turning them into live action because they're just popular these days. They're just
money.
It's just bringing it. I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the popularity just allows them to make more money and things like that. People are clearly loving the idea of adapting a lot of these fan favorite characters, whether it be movies or television series, and whether it be even like Nancy Drew, or the Riverdale, taking some of these iconic characters from the comic books or novels and things like that and turning them into live action. It's just seeing those stories just in person instead of having to read it, and I think that popularity just carries over, especially if it's certainly done right. Any adaptions or any characters that you saw that you feel succeed or fail, or
yeah, I mean, I feel like Bumblebee was definitely the movie that really got it right. And I think part of that was, again, kind of going back to the comic book thing, you can't just take like a direct translation from something that works in a cartoon format for the live action. And I feel like Bumblebee finally realized that you could, it learned how to take what worked about the Transformers series, but also knew how to ground it by giving it like a relatable character as our main character, to introduce us to kind of this. I don't consider it to be in the same world as the other Transformers movies. I'm going to say this is a new world. So I say using this kind of a character to introduce us to this new world of Transformers, I think was a great way to help give us like something that was very accurate to what we got back in the 80s, but without it being like just a recreation, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. For some reason, the movie that keeps coming to mind, and I don't even know if this is equivalent to, I can't really use it for like an example for today, but I was just thinking for some reason, Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren, taking an iconic character like He-Man and trying to do a live action version of it. And, but then again, this movie was back in the 80s, so
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. I know that's a bad example because Masters of the Universe is kind of a bad movie. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's really bad. But
that's what he said. What do you think? How often do they succeed or fail? Like any adaptations that you found amazing or straight up sucked ass?
But it had a good thing going for it. Like the idea of, hey, it's the 80s, so we don't have like the technology that we have now
to pull it off, right?
But what we can do is we can take these characters from that world, just put them in the real world, so you can still like have everything that people love about He-Man, including the characters, but we don't have to worry about like trying to, put it in this fantasy world that would be really hard to depict in live action. So I do think it had a very clever thing going for it, and I know a lot of people aren't a fan of that movie. I personally think it's really enjoyable though.
It's definitely a cult classic. Like it definitely is a cult classic. Like for me, while it's certainly not the best movie in the world, like I said, I still own the DVD. I used to watch it religiously as a kid. Probably one of the reasons why I own it, because I did enjoy it for sure. And I didn't mind Dolph Lundgren as He-Man. I thought he was pretty great in it.
He did it just fine, honestly.
Yeah, and Skeletor was actually pretty good too. I really enjoyed Skeletor.
I love the costume design for Skeletor.
Yeah, it was pretty badass. I really loved it. Let's see here. He says, do you think Lois Lane will stay as a journalist and not become some metahuman like Iris on The Flash? I know Iris now having abilities angered a lot of people, especially those who already hate her with a passion. I'm under the impression that Lois will stay a journalist. I've while I've only watched the first 2 episodes of Superman and Lois, I love what they've given Elizabeth Tulloch to be able to do as Lois. I like the idea that she is still very much this investigative reporter, despite the fact that she's now working for the Smallville Gazette and things like that. Like, I love the fact that everybody certainly has their own storyline, that Lois isn't being overshadowed too much by Superman in here, that they're really giving her a great storyline here with this Morgan Edge stuff. So I think, granted, maybe if we get like 5 seasons of Superman and Lois, maybe there'll be a season where she somehow gets powers or abilities or something for a brief time, storyline wise, but I don't think it's going to be something that sticks around with her very long. Her Lois Lane's bread and butter is her investigative journalism, and I expect that to continue to be pushed to the forefront.
Yeah, no, I don't think they'll give her powers, but I'm very confused. I don't remember Iris having abilities. I mean, she had super speed in one episode back in like season 4.
Does she not have powers now?
No, not that I know of. Yeah. I mean, maybe in the mirror world, she had like this weird thing where she was kind of connected. She was able to connect herself to it. But when she came out of the mirror world, I didn't see anything to imply that she has powers. So I don't think that's the direction they're going in, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I saw the episode wrong or something. I don't know.
I mean, who knows? I haven't caught up, so we'll see what happens. Let's see a couple of questions from Adrian. Appreciate the questions, Adrian. He says, "What are some of your guys' favorite sitcoms of all time, and what impact have they had on you?"
My favorite sitcom is That 70s Show.
You took my answer. That's okay.
I will rewatch that show so many times. I absolutely love it all the way through. And as for impact, well, man, it was one of the last things I bonded with my grandma over. Actually, it was so weird because she's not usually a fan of raunchy humor, but she really loved That 70s Show. It was really bizarre.
I mean, for me, 70s Show would impact. I mean, it turned me into a pothead. So no, I'm just kidding. No, I 70s Show for me was hilarious. It is. I own like the first 2 or 3 seasons on DVD. Like it's one of those things where I just pop it on and just keep it on in the background. Or like whenever you just need a good laugh or just something to watch, you can't go wrong with that 70s Show, man. I know some people will throw out like The Office. While I enjoy The Office, I'm very much not like I keep it on all the time sort of thing. But I certainly enjoy it. Parks and Rec was pretty fun for me. But I was always a big fan of like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I watched a lot of sitcoms growing up as a kid. I feel like that's all was on television back in the day was sitcoms.
Mm-hmm.
Like the early 90s and stuff. Like TGIF and things like that.
I tried getting into Parks and Recs, but I don't even know why, but just something about it, like, I guess it just wasn't the show for me. I don't know why. I think because I know it has a huge fan base.
Yeah, I mean, great talent too. Chris Pratt was there. Audrey Plaza is in there also. The what's the comedian's name? Aziz. I'm probably butchering. There's some great performers on there too. But yeah, there's a lot of sitcoms I grew up. I definitely felt like I was a sitcom kid growing up for sure. Let's see. If you could choose either the 1995 Power Ranger movie. Oh goodness. Okay. If you could choose either the 1995 Power Ranger movie or the 2017 Lionsgate reboot, which did you think did amazing at, and which has areas that were disappointing? It's a little bit interesting way how you're answering this, so or putting this question. So I'm just trying to understand the question. If you could choose either the 95 Power Ranger movie or 2017 Lionsgate reboot, and it's a question mark. So I'm like, am I choosing either or? Which did you think did amazing at, and which has areas that were disappointing? Well, 2017 Lionsgate areas disappointing, lack of Power Rangers. 95 improvements, or what was it disappointing in? I mean, I felt
battle.
I was going to say maybe the Zord battle, maybe the special effects. But I mean, granted, back in 1995, I mean, what could you expect from it, right? But I felt like 95 did a really great job of taking the aura of the television show and putting it on a bigger screen and just upping the ante, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, I guess for 2017 lack of Power Ranger stuff, for 95 maybe just poor graphics for the Zord battle.
Yeah, I'd say that for the 95 movie, or if I had to choose between the two, probably the 2017 movie. As for the 95 movie, the only thing I kind of was disappointed with is, of course, the Zord battle at the very end, just because it was literally some of the worst CG I think in any film ever made. I think just, they should have gone with either the movie had a budget, so I feel like they could have just paid Toei to make them an extra pair of Zord costumes and then just made their own set, or just paid Toei to do the Zord battle, or something like that. So it is weird that they didn't just try to, do live action practical effects with the Zords, because I think it would have looked a lot better. But yeah, and then the 2017 Power Rangers movie, I feel like I've said this so many times, like they did a surprisingly really well job when it came to the characters, like way better than I think anyone possibly expected. And so it was just so bizarre how like the actual Power Ranger aspect of the film ended up being so disappointing. Like you had some really cool fights at the end, but they lasted for, 5 minutes and the camera barely, tracked them that much. It just kind of, you get a cool shot here and there, and then it's like, okay, now we're going to spend the rest of the movie with these crappy Zord battles. And it's like, oh, so if we could like take the 95 action scenes and, even the costumes, because I actually do really like the 95 costumes. Yeah. If we just take the 95 costumes and action scenes, but mix them with the characters and just, the development from the 2017 movie, you got yourself the perfect Power Rangers film right there.
Absolutely, man. I totally agree with you there. Maybe somebody can somebody just like edit that in or something like that, like just make an amalgamation of a Power Ranger movies and just put one giant cutout. I think that'd be pretty interesting.
Challenge accepted.
I love it. But I'm kind of curious to know what other people would think in regards to that too. You know what, Stuart, while I have you here talking about Power Rangers, you put me on to I know you're a big Godzilla fan, and I recently tackled Shin Godzilla. And one of the things that I was saying was like, I would love to see a modern, whatever reboot that we get for Power Rangers, maybe utilize sort of that technology that they wind up doing for Shin Godzilla, like still capturing the tokusatsu sort of vibe of it, like a guy in the costume, but just adding like just current technology to it. Because for me, it blew me away watching Shin Godzilla. I'd never seen anything like it before, that they were still able to capture that aura, but just bring it into modern times in such spectacular fashion. I was really impressed by the special effects for a budget that was so incredibly low. I felt like this type of stuff looked even better on screen than what I saw in the 2017 Power Ranger movie.
Yeah, well, what it did that was very different, compared to every Godzilla movie that we've gotten before is, and I think this is kind of brilliant, and I would love to see other monster movies try this, is that like Godzilla, and I couldn't even tell at times because it did look like a really well-designed costume.
Yeah.
He was CG the entire time, but I think what helped him look so realistic is the fact that the way he moved was just like how he would have moved if it was a guy in a costume, the kind of slow, like not moving too fast. And I think that's what really made it feel like you were actually looking at something that was really there. Whereas, as much as I love King of the Monsters, it's really easy to tell with some of the fights going on between the monsters just because of how floaty things can get. And because of how fast they move more than anything else, it's really easy to tell that nothing's actually there. As much as they do a great job of trying to make it feel like the monsters are there, you can just ultimately tell that they're not actually there. So I think when you restrict the CG and you restrict the movement as if it was like a guy in a costume, it really gives you the sense that there is something like there that the characters are, fearing, because, in real life, big objects don't move that fast.
Yeah, there's a lot of substance and weight to its movements. for sure. Like you could feel its gravitas on the screen when it's there, and just some of the shot selections of, you know, some of the angles that they wind up having for Godzilla and the people running, you know, in the city and stuff. I mean, it was just breathtaking to watch, sort of thing, and it would be a little bit of a stylistic choice that, you know, I think would be pretty neat for a Power Ranger movie, if they wanted to try and pull off something like that, whether it be a big monster that comes and, you know, tackles the city or whatever the case might be, you know, giving us a modern take yet still going to its roots of tokusatsu a little bit. I just think it would be I was just blown away. Shin Godzilla really surprised me. So I would recommend you guys check it out if you haven't done so yet. And I do have a great English version of it also, Stuart. I might have to send your way, sir. Let's see here. Last question. Do you remember when Into the Spider-Verse was first announced? What were your expectations? You know, listen, when I first saw the trailer for Into the Spider-Verse and I saw we were getting ourselves Miles Morales, for me, I had no concerns about this movie at all. For me, at least, just the animation style that they wind up showcasing us, I was like, I'm gonna eat this up immediately. I know I am, especially if I get the opportunity to watch it in 3D, which I did, and it blew me away. I really was not that concerned, especially considering who was behind it with Phil and Lord Miller. I was really looking forward to it, so I had my expectations high, and they actually were met, honestly. So I love that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say my expectations were incredibly high, because the thing that worried me a little bit was because I had known that they were working on a Miles Morales Spider-Man movie for a while. And when I had seen the title was going to be Into the Spider-Verse and saw that there were going to be multiple Spider-Man in the movie, my worry was, okay, so Miles finally gets his own movie, but the studio is so incompetent with him being the main character that they have to, you know, throw in a whole bunch of other Spider-Man in there in order to hook people's interest. Thankfully, even if that was the studio's mindset, that was clearly not the Christopher Lloyd. Sorry, I forget their names all the time.
I just put Lord and Miller, yeah.
Lord and Miller. That was clearly not their thoughts when making the movie. It was still very heavily a Miles Morales movie, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant all the way through. So by the time we got the second trailer where we got a little more reveals of the other Spider-Man, and we could see that it was still going to be a, you know, Miles focused film, despite the fact that there are a lot of other Spider-Man in there, my worries were definitely, you know, way lower. And then, of course, after actually seeing the film, it was freaking amazing. I loved it. It's still... I'd go as far as to say it's my favorite Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, man. I feel like a lot of people have it really high on their list. I think for me, it's like my number 2, right behind Spider-Man number 2. But it depends on what when I'm watching it. They can easily flip-flop for sure. And then last set of questions here. This is from Doomsday. Do you feel like Thor: The Dark World kind of managed to redeem itself with Thor Ragnarok? I wouldn't say... For me, not so much Thor Ragnarok as I would say Endgame. I feel like Endgame does a really good job of trying to make Thor: The Dark World relevant, you know, to kind of give you a reason to watch that movie with its connections. So I wouldn't say Thor Ragnarok redeemed it for me so much as I would say Avengers Endgame. It's still the one Thor movie I refuse to go back and watch. But I mean, if there is a bright spot to it, I think maybe Endgame threw some shine on it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think, because even though it's a bad movie, I don't think it really needed to be redeemed per se, because it's just kind of boring and forgettable. But it's not like it ruins Thor's character. It doesn't ruin the franchise or anything like that. It's just like kind of a forgettable film. So, you know, as much as I love Thor Ragnarok, I wouldn't say it redeemed anything, because I don't think there was anything that really needed to be redeemed, if that makes sense.
No, I get what you're saying. Let's see here. Have you noticed that throughout? Well, let me pull this up here real quick, because this is an odd question. I want to just kind of get some clarification to here before I even bring the question up. So hold on one second. See, I don't know where he's getting this information from. It says, do you realize that the first 5 Marvel movies had a length time pattern, being Iron Man 2 hours, Incredible Hulk 1 hour, Iron Man 2 hours, Thor was 1 hour, Captain America was 2 hours. That's just not true. Like Incredible Hulk wasn't 1 hour, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. You know, you look at Was it the first Thor movie? Thor movie runtime. How long was that? 1 hour 55 minutes. So I mean they're all similar. So I don't know. There's unfortunately there's no truth to that Doomsday. They're both all around 2 hour marks, unfortunately. So I don't really see a connection there. But your next question says, have you noticed that throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Gamora is only one out of the Guardians that calls Quill Peter? Interest? Does he really? Did you catch that?
I didn't, but that's actually really interesting.
That is interesting. I'll have to go back and check that one out. I haven't really picked up on that, but thank you for bringing that to our attention for sure.
James Gunn does have like a interesting thing with attention to detail. So things that like normally, your first time viewing, you wouldn't really think much of. There might be a lot more significance to it, like when you go back for a second view. So I could see that.
Yeah, good point. Good point. We'll look out for it though. We'll look out for it. Maybe when I go back and revisit, I mean, if it feels right, just because of their connection, but we'll definitely see. Because I feel like everybody else maybe calls him Quill, right?
Mm-hmm. Like that would make sense.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. All right. Other than that, guys, I think that's going to be all of our live viewer questions here today. So thank you very much, everybody, for certainly submitting your questions over. We love tackling those with you guys. And I guess to go ahead and round off, Stuart, maybe we just jump into the comments and maybe pick out like a few that maybe jumped out at us this week that we didn't get a chance to highlight. I'm Handsome Dude does say Wonder Woman 1984 was nominated for Kids' Choice Awards. Gal Gadot posted a thank you. What's funny too? I heard Robert Downey Jr. won a Kids' Choice Awards for Best Actor from Dr. Dolittle, but I also heard Robert Downey Jr. won a Razzies Award for Dr. Dolittle. So does that mean that kids have no idea what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to movies, Stuart?
I guess.
I don't know.
Honestly, I mean, let's face
kidding.
it. As kids, we all had really bad taste in movies. Not gonna lie.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. I just said I loved Masters of the Universe as a kid, so it's a perfect example.
Okay. Here's an important question that I need to answer. Someone is asking what the rest of the legends are doing on the ship. Well, as you've probably seen from season 5, they established the fact that this ship only has one bathroom, so they're all in line to use the bathroom right now. And I guess what's her face is really taking her time with her makeup.
Oh man, that's a good one. Let's see here. Let's see. Are the first. Oh, this is from AJ. He says, off topic, but did you guys hear the news of the Flash movie? Henry Allen actor has quit. Instead of we will get Nora Allen. Do you think she will have to be there to die or just be in Barry's flashbacks? No, the point of Flashpoint is he actually saves his mom's life from dying, right? Like that's the ultimate choice that Barry has to wind up making, and because of the fact that he saves her life, it winds up creating a new timeline, if you will. So yeah, she definitely has a significant importance there. But yeah, it's a scheduling conflict for Billy Cudrup, who plays Henry Allen. So that's why he had to depart the film, unfortunately. I don't know about this, but I've been hearing great things so far. There are rumors that the Marvel's Eternals will cast Harry Styles from One Direction as Star Fox and Diego Luna as Crow. Harry is not even an actor. I expect his cameo on a Nickelodeon show. I mean, if it's a rumor, I haven't heard too much about it. But have you heard anything in regards to that rumor or what?
I know there was a dude from One Direction that was recently in Christopher Nolan's oh shoot! Dunkirk. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same guy.
It might be Harry Styles.
Yeah,
is it Harry Styles?
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. Because I've actually never listened to One Direction, so I'm not sure who's who in the band. But I do know there was a One Direction dude in the movie. So if it is, it might be the same guy. So he probably does have some acting experience. If it is,
yeah, it's definitely him. So yeah, he definitely does have some acting experience. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that if that's a rumor that comes to be true. But I've been hearing great things about Eternals, man. Kathy Zhao? Maybe I hope I'm not Chloe Zhao, I believe her name is. She just did No Man's Land. She's getting a ton of accolades for that movie. Also, a ton of praise for The Eternals. So I'm really getting hyped for that movie. The more and more I hear about it.
Okay, this is hilarious. So I actually did watch the show a little bit growing up. So apparently Sam Raimi was on Nickelodeon's show Drake and Josh as an extra who kept complaining about his dead end job and girlfriend who changed her number. That's funny. I gotta go back and watch that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. Marcelino Vasquez says, I don't think Kathleen Kennedy intended to make a bad movie. Yeah, I don't think they ever intend to make a bad movie, Marcelino. You know, they're investing millions of dollars in these films, right? They want to go ahead and get a positive buzz so that they can make not only their money back, but again, they utilize that money that they make to go ahead and make other movies for their companies also. So I never think that somebody goes out to make a bad movie, but it's not like making a movie is easy. You know what I'm saying? It's like it takes a lot of people for things to really go right to make a stellar film. So I agree with you. I don't think Kathleen Kennedy certainly intended to make a bad movie, despite maybe some of the bad decisions or the directions that they certainly went. I definitely felt they had the intentions, but it just didn't come together, unfortunately. So I don't think these, you know, people that say, oh, well, she's not a Star Wars fan, she doesn't get it, or she just hates that. I don't think that's the truth. I just think it's the case of, you know, maybe she just doesn't have that creative presence or truly understands the world sort of thing. So I think that, again, the idea of maybe stick to being the executive producer that got you to this particular point as the head of Lucasfilm, maybe not dabbling so much in trying to be that creative aspect like a Kevin Feige, but just, you know, work towards your strengths and definitely continue to do your best in pairing up people to go ahead and bring some great stuff. So yeah, I mean, what do you think about that, Stuart? I mean, yeah. I don't think people go out to purposely make bad movies.
Yeah, no, I mean, unless you're Thunder Levin directing Sharknado, because that's literally the hook for Sharknado is that, hey, it's a really bad movie, come watch it. But that being said, yeah, no, I don't think she ever intended to make any of the Star Wars movies bad. And in fact, I think, like, you know, one of the biggest thing is she was trying to play it safe by having really big time Hollywood directors attached to each one of the individual films, rather than choosing one director to direct all three and have a specific direction. She had the idea of, you know, three different directors, all great in their own way, so we can have three great different movies
and three writers, because they had
exactly
different writers. So.
Yeah, exactly. Which, you know, so I don't think that was the smartest decision, but I do understand that mindset, you know, and it makes, I know a lot of people really wish that people like back in 2015 that they could have had Dave Filoni in charge of the franchise from the beginning, but you had to know that it was never going to happen. As great as Dave Filoni is, and, you know, I'm sure he probably would have made a better trilogy than the one we got. And as much as I love, you know, episode 7 and 8, I'm sure if Dave Filoni was in charge from the beginning, it would have been better than anything we could have gotten. We should have known that was never going to happen, though, because the thing is, Hollywood doesn't look at, you know, successful cartoons the same way as they do successful giant franchises. They're going to choose someone like J.J. Abrams or Rian Johnson or the dude from Jurassic World whose name I forgot that was originally going to do episode 9. Colin Trevorrow. Yeah, of course they're going to choose those guys over Dave Filoni any day. You know, and I know that upsets a lot of people, but that's just kind of how the business works, unfortunately.
And I think it's also important to recognize that George Lucas himself handpicked Kathleen Kennedy to run Lucasfilm after it was certainly bought out. So I think the idea of George Lucas maybe putting Kathleen Kennedy at the forefront, despite having worked closely with Dave Filoni over all those years with Clone Wars, I think says something. And I think George Lucas picked Kathleen Kennedy because of her experience where, you know, while Dave Filoni has experience working with George Filoni, the idea of running an entire company is significantly different than working in animation. That's something that you have to years of experience to certainly get to. So like for me, I've always assumed that if there is going to be somebody next up to bat after Kathleen Kennedy leaves, whether she leaves this summer on her own will or whatever the case may be, I always felt that maybe Jon Favreau would be next up, just because he does have that experience acting, directing, producing, being an executive producer, right? Being attached to past Marvel stuff, knowing how companies certainly are run. So I always felt very much that Jon Favreau would be sort of the next man up. But again, that's not taking anything away from Dave Filoni. We're seeing him coming into his own, directing at live action for the very first time in season 1 of The Mandalorian, getting to do it a little bit more here in season 2 also. Now he's getting live action television shows. So I know people want to see Dave Filoni get that, get that recognition. It's going to take time, though. Baby steps. You don't just thrust somebody into that particular situation. And praises go out to Kathleen Kennedy to allowing Dave Filoni to be on a set like The Last Jedi and to learn from somebody like a Rian Johnson, right? To be able to have Dave Filoni around somebody like a Jon Favreau to certainly build him up. Putting Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau in great positions for their future in Lucasfilm. It's all certainly coming together, but that type of stuff needs to be earned to certainly get to that point. And to be able to get to that point where Kathleen Kennedy is, to control an entire production staff and organization sort of thing in the studio, Dave Filoni is not quite there yet, as much as we absolutely love him, but he probably will be in time. And I think so will Favreau. So those futures are certainly bright, because I think Kathleen Kennedy is certainly setting that up for them to be bright for sure. Let's see here. AJ does say, whatever happened to the Black Widow movie? It's coming May 2021. It's still coming. They still have plans on releasing it out in movie theaters. Let's see here.
Yeah. Superman and Lois. Some people made a joke how black suited Superman has shown up like weeks shown in this week's Superman 2 weeks before Snyder Cut. Actually, not this week's, but the week before. But yeah, I definitely agree. That was really cool seeing him back in the suit, because technically he was already in that suit in the Elseworlds crossover. So yeah, I definitely hope we get more scenes with him in that suit again, because I think Tyler Hoechlin, surprisingly for the few scenes that we've seen him as evil Superman, he pulls it off pretty well.
Yeah, he does. I definitely enjoyed him in that. Did they explain I'm assuming I don't know if they explain this on Superman and Lois this season, but this kind of in this past episode, but this is kind of confirmed that Captain Luthor is from that same Elseworlds. Like, is that same Superman from that Elseworlds that we saw?
No, because the Elseworld Superman that we saw was just Deegan, Dr. Destiny, but like right. In disguise as Superman. In disguise, that's right. Yes, but he is from that world where that evil Superman comes from. So definitely excited to see for sure.
AJ, thank you for this. Aziz Ansari is the actor's name that's in Parks and Rec that I always loved. Adrian says, my favorite sitcom is George Perez. It's a tradition we do in my family every year during Thanksgiving. I did like the George Lopez show. That was pretty funny. I didn't watch it religiously or anything, but the episodes that I did watch did definitely make me laugh.
Yeah, same here. Like, I definitely didn't keep up with the series all the way through, but I definitely had some good laughs here and there from the episodes I did watch. Except for there were a few times I think where they may have taken the joke with his friend being really into his daughter a little bit too far. That was where it's like, okay, that's a bit creepy, because the dude's in his 40s and his daughter's 14. It's like, okay, this is a little too weird.
Yeah, I'll leave it up to Mr. Lopez though. That's pretty funny. I think other than that, I think that's probably going to wrap it up for us, unless there's anything else in particular that you wanted to highlight.
Since he asked, please answer, LOL, I will. But the question does kind of confuse me, not going to lie. I think Legends of Tomorrow doing Hollywood spoof is similar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where the characters literally do things in Hollywood. I mean, by that logic, I guess anything that does Hollywood is a spoof of that. But I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Legends are very, very different, unless in Legends they go back in time and prevent Charlie Manson's cult from killing what's her face like they do in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I don't know, because I don't know if that would be in poor taste. So I personally don't think that's something they'll ever touch with a 10-foot pole in Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference. I wouldn't say it's similar so much as it's it just takes place in Hollywood as a spoof. I wouldn't necessarily compare the two for sure, because they are completely different. But all right, guys. I think other than that, I think that's probably going to go ahead and wrap this up for us here today. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of A Plus Hero Report. Certainly, we'll be back next weekend for you guys. Also, every Sunday live at noon Central Time. So definitely look forward to that. But Stuart, if people want to try and reach out to you on social media, sir, where can they go ahead and locate you at?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Twitter.
Awesome. And you got any projects that you're currently working on at all? I know you're back to work and stuff, so
yeah, like I do have a few projects, but it's just going to be a minute before I can get around to any of them. I was hoping I could start doing like the Could I Survive This series weekly, but then that's when I started getting called back into work. So I'm hoping I can go back to it, but I also the format. I'm trying to rework the format a bit because I feel like the overall end product of what I got wasn't what I was hoping it would be. So I am going to try to rework the format. I'm also kind of experimenting with other ideas, but I'll announce them as they come, if that makes sense. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that. Well, thank you. Thank you for keeping us up to date then, Stuart, in regards to that, man. We definitely look forward to it. And we'll definitely, hopefully have you back next weekend as well. But other than that, guys, listen, if you want to go ahead and follow us on social media, you can definitely do so at aplusopinions. Very active over on our Facebook page along with Twitter. And you can definitely check us out over on Instagram and Twitch for you gamers as well. If you enjoy this content, guys, do us a big favor, hit that subscribe button, especially that bell notification, so that when we do drop brand new videos, you will certainly go ahead and be notified. And of course, hit that big like button, guys, that big thumbs up. It certainly goes a long way in regards to YouTube recognizing our work and certainly recommending it to other people. But other than that, guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for us here today at A Plus Hero Report. But we'll see you next weekend. In the meantime, do us a big favor, though, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, keep it A plus. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.